I know we ain't talked in a minute, but what is time? Living in the thoughts and the visions, but between the lines, yeah. I can't even talk with the visions there in my mind. Cause every time I fall, I can feel you there on my side, yeah. So show me the way and I'll follow you. Show me the way, cause that's all I do. Take the leap of faith and I'll dive into my diamonds. I'm finding this divine light inside of you. Tell me that you want me, baby. That ice cold stare, I just wanna know you, baby. From 1 to 3, got me looking everywhere for you. Count the stars, you are my sun. Underneath my skin, my bones are creeping in. I don't want this love to end. Underneath my skin, when I look into your eyes, see the miracle of life shining underneath your skin. Underneath your skin. Underneath your skin. Wake up in the morning to get a touch from your arm. No regrets, I can't forget the scent you had on. Fingernails, they tell the tales of sex, but you're gone. Now I wonder what's coming next in this song. So show me the way and I'll follow you. Show me the way, cause that's all I do. Take the leap of faith and I'll dive into my diamonds. I'm finding this divine light inside of you. Tell me that you want me, baby. That ice cold stare, I just wanna know you, baby. From 1 to 3, got me looking everywhere for you. Count the stars, you are my sun. Oh, underneath my skin, my bones are creeping in. I don't want this love to end. Underneath my skin, when I look into your eyes, see the miracle of life shining. Underneath your skin. Underneath my skin. My skin. My bones are creeping in. I don't want this love to end. Underneath my skin, when I look into your eyes, see the miracle of life shining. Underneath my skin. Underneath my skin.
Are you ready for phase 1?
Staring at the stars in the back of my car. Huh. Trying to figure out just who we are. Catching moments on our phones, taking pictures, call it home. Picking words out of our favorite songs, our favorite songs. We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. The city is ours for life. Will you take my hand tonight? We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. Will you take my hand tonight? Will you take my hand tonight? Yeah, we'll show them we were right. Will you take my hand tonight? We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. Will you take my hand tonight? Will you take my hand tonight? Wearing cheap perfume, smoking the rain. I make you laugh, trying to heal the pain. Now we're stuck in hotels, missing home. Getting fucked up on our own. Trying to find the place where we belong, where we belong. We can stay young together. We can go on forever. We can tell them that we just don't care. Run through the street and you flick your hair. We can fall like a feather. We can get lost whenever. We can talk till the morning, dream without a warning, you and I. We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. The city is ours for life. Will you take my hand tonight? We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. Will you take my hand tonight? Will you take my hand tonight? We can stay young together. We can go on forever. We can tell them that we just don't care. Run through the street and you flick your hair. We can fall like a feather. We can get lost whenever. We can talk till the morning, dream without a warning, you and I. Will you take my hand tonight? Yeah. Will you take my hand tonight? Will you take my? We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. The city is ours for life. Will you take my hand tonight? We can stay up all night. Yeah, we'll show them we were right. Will you take my hand tonight? Will you take my hand tonight? My hand tonight. My hand tonight. My hand tonight. My hand tonight.
They say history is written by the victor, so I don't mind playing the villain. Got a pretty girl to the throne. 'Cause the memories come and I can't even run. I gotta win this just to prove to me I can. I'll divide and I will conquer. I will battle like a warrior. If I'm dying, getting stronger. I'll divide and I will conquer. You're like all I ever wanted, but couldn't afford. would a pretty girl leave you bored? Guess the memories go, and I can't even run. I gotta win this chance to prove to me I can. I'll divide and I will conquer. I will battle like a warrior. If I'm dying, getting stronger. I'll divide and I will conquer. I'll divide and I will conquer. I will battle like a warrior. If I'm dying, getting stronger. I'll divide and I will conquer.
If I gave you a week, would you keep eating on bottle, lie in bed and pour a drink of me? And let your friends think you're developing a problem, but we're happier than it could be. And if there wasn't always something dragging us down, like everyone around us saying we're just messing around. Well, maybe I can love you, babe, but maybe I'm too afraid of getting less than I gave. I'm not that brave. I'm not that brave. I'm not that brave. We were so close to everything we wanted, to everything we almost had. We were so close that I could almost feel the pain and it hurt so bad. But there's always something changing the way we go. Like everyone around us thinking that they should have a say, but they don't. Well, maybe I can love you, babe, but maybe I'm too afraid of getting less than I gave. I'm not that brave. Oh, I'm not that brave. I'm not
brought to me. You're the girl I wanna see. You're the girl I wanna be. Baby, it's just you and me. Yeah. No place I'd rather be. You're the girl I wanna see. You're the girl I wanna be. Baby, it's just you and me. Yeah. Baby, it's just you and me. You and me. Baby, it's just you and me. Baby, it's just you and me. Baby, it's just you and me. Oh, I got a lot to say, don't wanna share it, but a lot of pain. But I know that you're pure. I'm a disease and you are my cure. Right there, girl, you better move. Right there, can you feel it too? Right there, girl, you better move. Hey, right there, can you feel it too? No place I'd rather be. You're the girl I wanna see. You're the girl I wanna be. Baby, it's just you and me. Yeah. No place I'd rather be. You're the girl I wanna see. You're the girl I wanna be. Baby, it's just you and me. Yeah. Baby, it's just you and me. Oh, baby, it's just you and me. 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 You and me. Baby, it's just you and me. Baby, it's just you and me.
I'm not interested in your money. I'm more interested in the things you do. It's like they made you for my body. The way I fit so perfectly with you. Straight lace for me down low. When you give me that cocoa.
So let's just re-record that. How about that? A little more energy. We can do that, right? Oh, we're live. That's right. This is live coming to you with Plug and Play's Brand and Retail Batch 16 Expo. And we're live wherever you're joining us from. Whether that's Plano, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, New York, all over the globe, or right here at our global HQ in Silicon Valley. Welcome to Batch 16 Expo. It's the longest running program here at Plug and Play, one of the longest running and largest of its kind, and we're very excited to have you. I'm Will Decker, VP and co-director of the Brand and Retail, joined here with my co-director, Kevin Pericato.
We're so excited to see you all. Hello and welcome. Off to Will to kick off the day.
Excellent, thank you. So hopefully some of you have joined us in this morning for the Supply Chain Expo. This is one of our few major public events. We do hold several other events that you can attend. Those are webinars, partner events, industry events. Find it all online at our website, plugandplaytechcenter.com, or our LinkedIn showcase pages. It's the best way to stay in touch with the latest and greatest going on. So today, Batch 16, unbelievable program. The team has worked very hard in putting together for you. A great group of startups and speakers. And to dive right into it, if you're joining us for the first time, Plug and Play is all about driving innovation by connecting entrepreneurs, corporates, and investors all over the world. It's what we do. We are very lucky to work with some great individuals working hard to transform their in their industries and rise up to today's challenges. Plug and Play does that across several industries. In fact, our event here today focused on brand and retail is just one of several that we'll have this week as part of the Fall Summit 2021. A lot of our partners like to join across several industries to see the latest innovations and disruptions happening and bring that back as inspiration to their own companies. And what an incredible ecosystem. Plug and Play has developed a network of over 30,000 startups across stages and geographies to help work with you, whether that's to provide some inspiration, to validate some of the latest thinking and your vision of the future, or to work on testing and piloting and proof of concepts for new technologies that can drive your business forward and captivate the next generation of consumers. We've also grown. Plug and Play has now over 30 locations worldwide, and you saw that wide list of industries covered. So many ways to get involved, and we continue to grow. A little investment snapshot, Kevin.
As you know, we are one of the most active VCs in Silicon Valley. We have over 1,600 portfolio companies ranging from fintech, IoT, travel, and of course, our beloved commerce, retail, and media. By region, about 70% or so of our investments are done domestic, but these days we've been doing increasingly more investments all over the world, including Europe, Latin America, and of course, Asia. Several unicorns in the portfolio, 22 and counting. 2021 has been a record year for us. Almost every month, we had a new recorded unicorn. For those that are new to Silicon Valley and new to the tech scene, a unicorn means a company that's reached over $1 billion in valuation.
Here's some of the locations that we've launched. In fact, I just came back from Chicago where we had a launch event with our fellow programs in food and beverage and fintech. So the locations are growing, and what that means to you is that you get a local community of corporations, investors, and startups working on the topics most important to you in driving innovation through our programs, events, and the teams that we have on the ground. So if you're interested in opening a location, reach out to the team. If you want to find out if there's a location near you, there probably is, go ahead and get involved. Lots of ways to get involved, and if you're a startup, these are great landing pads for you to enter new markets and new communities of innovation.
This year, our team has been focusing heavily on content. And we're excited to mention our global retail report, which we released in last Expo. If you haven't gotten a chance to take a look, ask your partner success manager for a copy. It's a 60-page plus report that we created painstakingly with every single ventures associate that works on the brand and retail team globally. We have insights from Asia, from Europe, and of course, United States. We're touching all the key segments, including what we're investing in, especially on our thesis that we think that the media and the commerce world are becoming one. We think the future brands of tomorrow are the best media houses, and the best media houses in the world are going to be the future commerce engines. So check that report out if you haven't already. Just hit your partner success manager up. One of the things that we've done in the last 2 to 3 years is be incredibly digital. Playbook, as Will mentioned, is our digital foray into venture capital. It's one of the most active platforms, all first-party data. Every month, we have over 4,000 monthly active users. We have over 40,000 startups, all first-party information, all enterprise-focused, that our ventures team, of which over 110 individuals globally have sourced over the last decade. We've created over 9,000 startup collections. So if you work with Plug and Play, you know very well what this is. It's a list of over 20 startups that we've curated just for you based on your tech interest areas. And most importantly, Plug and Play, we're a matchmaker. We're a meeting of minds between entrepreneurs and corporations to power innovation. And we've had over 7,000 of those meetings in the last year alone. And what that equates to is over 230,000 startup corporation introductions. It's mind-blowing to see what we're doing here.
And a shout out to our international brand and retail locations, in particular, the new members on the corporate side joining our programs in Paris and in Munich. You can see here some of their logos and their names. What that means is they're bringing their challenges and opportunities into the ecosystem, working with the startups in our programs and attracting new ones, and really driving the entire group forward. So thank you. We, again, can't do this without you, and congrats to the Paris and Munich Plug and Play brand and retail teams. Here in Silicon Valley, you can't do it without your partners. So a lot of activity happening right now across consumer packaged goods, fashion and luxury, specialty, quick service restaurant, food service, and specialty. Every single category within retail has been under tremendous transformation through the pandemic and beyond. And it's thanks to you that we have these programs, that we've identified these themes and topics, and are here celebrating our expo today. So thank you from all of us at Plug and Play to our corporate partners. The themes for today, a really incredible group of startups, all fit within retail technology, things in physical spaces that really will captivate as consumers go back into stores and reimagining those spaces, especially tackling challenges around recruiting talent, sustainability and sustainable models, whether that's circular fashion, and supporting the sustainable fashion program that also launched recently here at Plug and Play. A huge impact and a very big opportunity to reset around sustainability for our brand and retail program. Connected and digital commerce, massive opportunity. This theme has been very consistent, but at no other time has it been so important to all of our partners as right now. So we're very excited to bring you a group of startups in that category. Supply chain and last mile, huge pressures to deliver against expectations and the change in consumer behavior that we've seen. So incredible technology in this space. And of course, our teams always get asked for brand new ideas that we're seeing out in the marketplace.
Those themes ultimately go into what we invest in. This past year has been a great year for us. We've done over a dozen investments spanning several different industries. So touching on one, the digital gig economy. What we've seen, and they're calling it the Great Resignation or the Great Reassessment. People are moving from their jobs. And what we're seeing more oftentimes is that tech companies especially are looking for more nimble ways to work with talent. That's why we invest in Hops, one of the best platforms out there to find on-demand marketing talent, engineering talent, whatever you may be, at the click of a button. We're also investing in all things that are in the intersection of media and commerce, especially a company that's presenting today called BlackTag. BlackTag is the go-to place for Black creators. For far too long, Black creators have lived on other platforms where their content has been reproduced and sold, and then not allowing the creator themselves to reap the financial rewards. BlackTag wants to be that platform. We're excited to co-invest in that company alongside NEA and CAA, the talent agency. We're hitting many different industries as well. We're touching the shoe market, as shown by Will's beautiful Nikes. We invested in an Australian startup that's really exciting called Pushas. Essentially, they're a sneaker reseller marketplace, and they're also powering the authentication as well as all the back-end logistics for StockX and GOAT. And finally, you can't touch commerce without touching fintech these days. And that's why we invested in a company called Charge After, which does point-of-sale financing. What's so unique about Charge After is that most point-of-sale financing platforms do not allow financing for those that are unbanked or have a credit score less than 680. So what that ultimately means is if you're wealthy, you're going to stay wealthy. But that's not the point of credit. The point of credit is to allow access to capital that you may have not had access to, so assuming you can pay. So Charge After really democratizes that process. It's a marketplace for consumer loans and allows a consumer with not great credit or unbanked to access that capital. We're hitting emerging markets and last mile and quick commerce as well. We invested in a company that's, right now 2 people and one day will definitely become a unicorn that focuses all on returns called Quick Returns. Their process is more or less identifying that consumers generally hate returns, especially these days when most of us are working from home. The last thing you want to do is run to FedEx in the middle of the day. You'd much rather it be at your house and getting that package right away. And finally, we're investing in the emerging markets. We all know and love Costco, and the modern interpretation of that is, of course, boxed. But what if we took that internationally? So we're excited to also invest in Mucho, a company out of Pakistan that focuses on the same exact challenge, but in an emerging market. We've had some great success stories in the last year. A company that will hopefully be in the headline soon and going on our thesis that work is ever changing and the great reassessment is happening is a company called Turing. Turing is more or less building faster with vetted remote developers. So if you need engineering talent, if you're a startup or a large corporation, check out Turing. It's one of the fastest growing companies, and you're going to read more about them in the next 5 years. Our darling Rappi out of Latin America. I think this company has raised twice in the last year. Rappi actually came to us as a grocery ordering platform in batch 1 of brand and retail. They evolved quickly and have become one of the quickest and best growing startups out of Latin America. These days, they focus on on-demand delivery and have raised over $500 million just this year alone.
May I thank you, Kevin. Great stories and hopefully some future stories to be had. And it is now my pleasure to move on to our first speaker and introduce Ryan Pila. He's the co-founder and executive director of New Incubation Ventures at Estee Lauder, their strategic venture arm and incubator. He'll be sharing a little bit about the new capability they're building and how they're partnering with founders and startups in the future of beauty. So take it away, Ryan.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Hey, thanks for having me here. Looks like I'll start up my video too. Perfect. Hey, congratulations on everything so far. It's been very exciting to see what you guys are building. I joined this morning. Everything was great. I can't wait to see what the rest of the day looks like. And it's always nice to see our logo up there as well on the corporate partnership side. I know we've been working with Plug and Play for over a year now, and it's definitely been great work, and we're kind of excited about what we've been able to build together. So happy to share a little bit about us and what we're doing. Hopefully this will be interesting for the startups, the founders, other investors, and people generally interested in the beauty industry. So we are a fairly new group at Estee Lauder. We started about 7 months ago, and we're playing as a strategic venture capital arm and incubator. I think we're very excited about what we've kicked off and are working on building out this capability. And for us, this team is focused on sourcing, building, and growing brands and business models that are addressing white spaces for our consumers and sort of the strategic gaps for the Estee Lauder portfolio. And while our group may be new, this model for Estee isn't. So over the past few years, we've had a history of investing in as a minority stake in beauty companies and building them into full acquisition. So Decium, Dr. Jart, among others. And Shauna Randava, who used to run the M&A team and has been at Estee for 6.5 years, has helped launch this with me. And so the two of us are looking to see if we can move that model earlier along for startups and for companies. So can we play at spots where maybe our advisory and our support and our services can just do more, and we can really help craft and shape the industry together. So for us, what we do is we look to invest in prestige beauty companies across the globe. And for us, prestige doesn't always mean price point. The Ordinary has $6 to $8 products, and we're invested in them through Decium. And so it's more, do they align with us and our brand values? And then in addition to some of the brands we look at, it's the technologies that are enabling the building of brands. So is that AI platforms, marketplaces, personalization? How can we help launch and create the new brands of tomorrow? We work with startups everywhere from pre-revenue, pre-launch, up to 20 million in revenue. So it's definitely a broad range, and are looking globally. So we've made 4 investments so far, which is quite exciting on our end. Our one public one is a company called Faculty World, a men's cosmetics and grooming company that's redefining what it means for men to self-express. And so they've started with nail polish and are expanding into other categories, helping men around the world be able to express themselves better. Some of our other ones are a local ingredients based story and sustainability for hair care and skincare out of the UK, a cosmetics brand out of China, and a new incubation project we're looking to get started in the anti-aging space. So very excited about what we're doing. We get a lot of questions on why us. How can we support founders? How does it work with other financial investors? On the investor side and the founder side, we really think getting in early with the support that we can provide and the advisory services we can provide, that it's really helping de-risk a potential exit. Our goal is to build that long-term relationship early and help founders navigate the challenges and the pitfalls that we've been through, and help replicate the successes we've done across our 26 brands and counting. And in that long-term relationship, our goal, especially as we acquire, bring a company into the Estee Lauder family, is to keep founders on and to really help them then get to refocus on what their passions are. So you're growing a company. If you're really interested in product innovation, how do we bring that, in-house and help put you back to that and run the rest of the business through the Estee Lauder system? So I think on our end, it's really is about the founders. And I think we like to connect with people who have a vision on where the industry is going, and really support in all the right ways, keeping founders nimble, keeping founders executing well, and supporting on our end through expertise, mentorship, and resources where appropriate. So we've been able to do this, I think, in a very great bespoke way with our partners like Plug and Play across the globe. And so for those listening, always happy to connect with anybody here that you think is interesting, where maybe our values can align, whether that's founders, whether that's beauty startups in the prestige space, whether it's other investors who have the deal flow and are always looking to chat. I'm excited to get to sort of share this, and hopefully we'll have more coming soon as we start to launch our brand and our website and be a bit more public about our portfolio. So I know that Suki from Plug and Play dropped in sort of an open call for innovation that we have, so you can get a hold there, or feel free to reach out to Plug and Play, and I know they can introduce us. We're always happy to share my contact information as well. But hopefully that's a little view into what it is that we're building. And I'm excited to meet some of you, and excited to keep this relationship with Plug and Play going.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. We love when a corporation develops their own innovation platform, and we're so happy that you guys partnered with Plug and Play. So on to our next keynote speaker. This person is quite possibly one of the most fantastic people I've met in the last year or so. So Colleen Howe is a director of global product innovation at Carhartt, where she's been at for nearly 7 years. She has an unorthodox background. She's actually a sociologist in training, or sociologist in background, with over 20 years in roles in social justice, agency work, and of course, corporate innovation. She comes from a family of small business owners and entrepreneurs, and she loves to innovate both externally and internally. So today, she's speaking on knowing the playing field. Essentially, the way that Madeline, our partner success manager, and I understood it is when you're looking to work internally and work with different business groups, how can you understand what their needs are and position the product or need that you have for them? So without further ado, here's Colleen to speak about it.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm super excited to be here and just really talk about innovation, my experience at Carhartt. And I don't know, is my slide up, my first slide? There we go. So this may possibly be the scariest way to start a presentation that anyone has ever seen. It was either this or a giant photo of the COVID virus, which would have been even scarier. But it really is kind of pertinent to the story that I'm going to tell. So I've been at Carhartt, it'll be 7 years next week. I started in co-creation and insights within the strategy team. And a little under 2 years ago, I moved over to an innovation role on the product leadership team. And the role had been in the works for a while, so I was already sort of doing the role. But my first official day on that team was the first day that Carhartt worked remotely. So that was super interesting to be in this totally new role on a new team at Carhartt, talking about innovation. So if you can imagine, think back to everyone's mindsets of March of that year and, 2020, and what were we really thinking about in terms of the future of companies, the country, the world. And I'm all like, hey, who wants to talk about innovation? So it made for a very interesting crash course in figuring out what's important to an organization and working on things that can create meaning immediately. And it led to I want to share with everyone, 3 key lessons that really I've learned over the past 18 months. And I learned with the start of innovation in the middle of a global pandemic. And the first one was, go where there's suction. So, there can be a lot of different innovation initiatives, and I'm a firm believer, you want to make sure they're aligned to your strategic priorities, right? But even within that list, there can be many different things you might be working on, and some opportunities may be bigger than others, but you want to be conscious of where there's energy, where you're going to have an easier go of getting things into the business as opposed to trying to push water up a hill. So if you have 5 opportunities in front of you, they're all pretty strategically important. Some may be bigger than the others. You look for where there's suction. Where are people interested? Where can you get the business saying, yes, I want to do this? And so that was really my first lesson. And it came in the form of a face mask for Carhartt. So when the pandemic started, Carhartt, who still has manufacturing in the US, was really great at doing a quick startup of both disposable gowns and disposable face masks. This is not one of them. The innovation group, which is a very small team within product, said, well, what if we came out with a branded face mask? And that is what you're seeing here. And it is a little creepy because it's on this sort of soulless head, but it was new for Carhartt. We had never done that before. And so we decided in like April 2020, we were going to go after this and try to get it into the market that fall. And it was a great way to learn our way forward on what our process was going to be in innovation on the product team. And during that time, innovation, it's got to be really new and cool. And we need to add, like, what are people going to want to wear? And let's add tech to a face mask. And that then resulted in my second lesson within the first couple months is the director of innovation, which is keep it simple. We started to talk about all these different wicking and, these different technologies that we could add. And what we realized quickly is that a lot of fabric is tested for skin irritation, but unless it's a fabric that was designed to be worn over the mouth, it was not tested for inhalation things. And so, we had a few versions and designs that had, different chemistries on it to make it a, better experience, maybe wick, etc. And at the end of the day, we really realized, like, just keep it simple. We need a good, couple layer face covering that's going to keep people's germs to themselves, keep germs from getting into them. And so second lesson learned, and we've carried that forward. Don't make it fussy, make it simple. We had some versions that were pretty fussy and people didn't gravitate towards them. And then that really then led to my third lesson within the first few months. I had always envisioned innovation as this further out there, thing you're working on, like something that we're incubating and maybe we'll come out with it in 3 to 5 years. And yes, that is part of innovation. Absolutely. But what I learned through the face mask sprint or project was that you can take on the innovation team can deploy their expertise and their resources in taking on something that actually has to be delivered now. We're working 18 months out at any given time on what's going to be delivered to the market. We had like 5 or 6 months to ramp up and get these face masks into the market. And so it was really the innovation team creating a process that wasn't our full go-to-market calendar to get something into market much faster, which really changed my mind about what innovation should be focused on. I think there's both closer in opportunities when you're reacting to the market, but I think there's then also those further out opportunities. Okay. So, when you Google sociology, not really, wasn't sure what kind of photo I'd put on here, but what I really want to talk about is I do have, I think, a unique background or a different background than many people in innovation. I think when you think about innovation, you might imagine that I would have a materials background. I'm a designer. I've talked to people in innovation who have like PhDs in some super impressive science, like hard science areas. But what I realized is there's a space for social science and sociology when you're thinking about innovation, because you're really, you're trained to understand people, groups of people in that world around you. So, at Carhartt, we take this approach of innovation has to be purposeful. And so really thinking about like not just innovation for the sake of innovation, but innovation to really make, do something better for the people who buy our brand. And so I've really tried to bring that background to bear in this role, with the support of a lot of people who are experts in materials, in fibers, in design, in a lot of other things. I rely on them to really help us bring it all together. But then I also use my background to know the playing field. And I think that's how we kicked all of this off. So it's thinking about, it's a little bit of that go where there's suction, but thinking about what innovation you're talking about and wanting to launch. And I'll give you an example. If the brand, whoever you work for, is struggling to deliver a particular category, you're not going to get a bunch of excitement bringing an innovative idea, unless it's going to help fix that problem, to that category leader when they can't deliver what they need to, like what's right in front of them. So it might not be the right time to bring your fantastic innovative idea to them, because it's just, they might not be in a mind space or a place where they can talk about it. And so really like know what's going on. So I sit in on meetings that, people might go like, why are you sitting in on this? Well, I'm just trying to understand. Like, you want to understand like delivery constraints. You want to understand what's going on with technology. You want to make sure that you know what your growth strategy is. You want to make sure you understand customer service complaints, because you'll want to create something that's going to create more. So it's really important to have that holistic view of what's happening at the company, not only to inform what you're working on for innovation, but to tell you when you should hold opportunities and when you should accelerate. Because there's another example recently of something we were sort of doing a slow roll on, and I heard about a business problem, and I put the two together and said, okay, we could speed this up because I think this could help with this issue. And we did just that. Again, sociologist. Oh, sorry, go back to the other slide. A sociologist, not a product person, had to establish legitimacy and build trust with the global product leadership team. And really, again, by understanding the playing field, by asking them questions about their parts of the business, by bringing ideas to them, really have worked hard to establish that legitimacy of someone who can talk about product, but doesn't have a native product background. And then finally, I think one thing that's really important for anyone who works in innovation is to really understand the difference between theoretical and practical. So there's a lot of theories out there about innovation, right? I mean, what innovation even means is hard to define or pin down anymore. It can have a lot of meanings. So there's a lot of people who talk, well, theoretically it should be this, or you need to hand off after proof of concept. And I am part of a group of a lot of corporate innovators that get together just to share some of the challenges and opportunities they're seeing. And that really has led to a lot of practical understanding. Yes, theoretically, this may be how people think it works, but at my company or at this company or in the real world, it actually works a little bit differently. And so, just be kind to yourself. The theory might not always work out. You have to sometimes just practically get after things and think about what's going to be best for your organization and what's happening right now. And now I'm ready. So what's next? I've been in the role a little more than 18 months. Like, what are the things on my mind? What do I think is coming next for innovation and innovation at Carhartt? One thing is, we say this a lot, that good ideas can come from anywhere, right? So you want to always have a good grounding and understanding of consumer and business opportunities and challenges, and always have a good understanding of maybe existing solutions in the marketplace, or two things in the marketplace you can bring together to create something new, because that's really what a lot of innovation is these days. And so being open to the fact that there are a lot of ideas out there, how do you respect that? Make sure you're talking to diverse groups of people, looking at diverse places for ideas, and bringing them together to solve consumer and or business challenges, and then put those and work them through your pipeline process, which gets to test and learn, right? So you don't always have the answer right in front of you. You might think, well, I think this is a great idea, but I'm not sure. So you've got to test and learn your way forward. Like, do a little bit of something, get consumer feedback, get feedback from outside experts, get feedback from people inside the company. And just, we talk about this all the time in innovation, but really just continuing to learn your way forward. And whether you're doing product, services, experience, or really almost anything in life these days, I think it's just a great philosophy to think about, how can I learn my way forward with what I'm doing? I also think it's important to look at a balanced portfolio. If you look at either your growth initiatives or market opportunities or consumer segments or whatever it is you have, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket that you're developing in your pipeline. So really thinking about, how can I balance my portfolio? Just as if you were thinking about your financial portfolio, you're not necessarily going to put all your money in one place. You want to de-risk it by placing smaller bets in different areas. And so that's really important for us. And then finally, and I think this is just a topic that I've seen a lot on lately, and we're definitely having these conversations at Carhartt. What role does diversity, equity, and inclusion have in innovation? So, one thing, and I have a quick example I'll share with you, but I'm seeing a lot of companies like funding, looking at DE&I efforts and funding different startups with minority ownership as a way that they can lean more into that space. And why they're doing it is that people who have different backgrounds can bring different ways of looking at problems. So we had an intern over the summer at Carhartt, and she was hired through this really great program through the city of Detroit. And she had just a different background, different thinking. She was younger. And on her second day of her internship, we were in the middle of a sprint where we were looking at a very specific opportunity for Carhartt. And first day she was in orientation, second day she's in the sprint, and we're using mural board, and we're doing all this work, and she just puts an idea out there, and it wasn't like, oh, the minute you saw it, but the more you thought about the idea, the more you were like, I don't know that anyone else in this group would have come up with that idea. She has a unique background that made it very easy for her to go to this very specific place and think about a way that we should evolve a specific product. And we are now taking that through the pipeline and getting more feedback on it. But it was just the perfect example of how you want to be diverse and inclusive in your internal innovation team, your external partners, where you're looking for inspiration, because that can help amplify innovation when you have people who have a different viewpoint because they have a different background or, a different philosophy about life, whatever that looks like. It's really beneficial to look in a lot of different areas to inspire yourself. And that's that. And this is super bizarre because I feel like I'm talking to myself.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Colleen. That was very insightful. Amazing job. A lot of takeaways, and I appreciate the perspective. You are leading us right into our next section where we get to write down to what many of you are here for our startups. And if you have picked up a new hobby or an activity, like many of us have, I am now enjoying the great outdoors to a much greater degree. Maybe it's more of an escape or an outlet, but hopefully it's something fun. And the way that I have discovered and bought the gear to support those adventures has changed dramatically. It's been much more connected and much more digital. That's our first category, digital and connected commerce. And first up, Arilla is bringing the science of connected products to the future. Their invisible and chipless tag can be printed directly on products and read by any phone. Welcome, Arilla.
Hello, my name is Perry. I am the co-founder of Arilla, and we give every product an embedded physical ID. Arilla was launched in 2017 in Waterloo, Canada by myself and my two partners. We combined have over 20 years of experience commercializing new technologies at places like Chevron and MIT. Today we serve customers from Europe and North America, and we are privately funded with investors such as VTF Capital and the Loro Piana Family Office. Arilla uses nanotechnology ink to print invisible QR codes onto products and packaging. And we do this without affecting any part of the look or feel of the product. And these codes are readable with any phone by just taking a photo and passing it through our API. We have partnered with some of the largest suppliers in the industry to provide a suite of InvisiCode products. These include invisible overprints for brand protection, as well as using our technology as an authenticity layer on QR code labels, and combining the power of RFID with the smartphone readability of our technology to create end-to-end traceability systems. And we use these products to create solutions for our customers around authentication, customer engagement, traceability, and more recently, re-commerce. In addition to not affecting the look or feel of the product, our technology is also significantly less expensive than NFC, and critically, it does not use any heavy metals and is entirely recyclable. So in summary, we give every product an embedded physical ID, which we do using invisible codes that are scannable with any phone. We've spent the better part of this year installing our first production lines, which are being used to tag a few 100,000 products by the end of Q1. And we are now looking for a strategic investor that can help us expand this install base. So if this is an area of interest, I recommend connecting. Thank you so much and take care.
We now have a poll up, so remember to submit whether or not you would like to be connected with Arilla. Tool rationalization in the digital world is complicated and hard. Next up, Charles is building a beautiful and intuitive UI that integrates your existing e-commerce and chatbot tools into one easy-to-use interface. Welcome, Charles.
Hi, my name is Andreas, and I'm the founder and co-CEO of Chart, the conversational commerce solution for businesses who want to bring their customer journeys into chat. We were founded in 2019 and originally started off as a clothing brand, selling basics exclusively via WhatsApp. We were lacking though software to make it happen, as chat service tools and chatbots were not fulfilling our needs to create an exciting and human experience. So we decided to build our own software, and by realizing the gap in the market, we eventually decided to pivot and became a B2B SaaS solution for conversational commerce. We quickly convinced first clients and got great feedback from the market. So in early 2021, we got the backing from leading VCs such as Axel and HV Capital, as well as known e-commerce angels in the space. Today, we are over 30 people from various backgrounds and helping our first early adopting clients to create value. Those clients also believe, as we do, that traffic is moving from the streets and from the browsers into chat apps. And with the traffic, transactions will follow. There's first interesting use cases, such as reactivating customers with newsletter-like formats, and even selling and clothing in chat for any high AOV products or VIP customers. We see great results across the board and in different verticals. There's a beauty retailer who reached 2.5 higher customer lifetime value for customers they chat with versus they don't. There's a fashion D2C player who has 10x more sales for any recipient via WhatsApp versus those via email. And we have a furniture brand who is reaching 30% in-chat conversion, leading to months with over 70% of sales in WhatsApp. If those results get you excited and you're also looking to expand your customer reach into messaging apps, reach out to us. Thank you.
And thank you, Charles. The poll should be out. Please look out for that and complete it to get in touch with Charles. Thank you so much. Next up, reshaping the circular economy. Eon is bringing digital identity to physical products. Welcome, Eon.
Hi, I'm Natasha Frank, founder and CEO of Eon. Eon is retail's operating system for products. We enable brands to unlock the full potential of each and every product. We create a digital identity for every item, turning physical products into connected assets with limitless potential for new business models, customer services, integrated data, and sustainability within each and every product. We are the leading enterprise solution for digital identification of products. Our clients and partners include industry's largest brands and retailers. We're digitizing millions of products annually with the largest marketplace of pre-integrated partners and services. We developed the global language for connected products, and we are on track to digitize billions of products annually by 2025. We enable brands to transition beyond rudimentary product identification systems into a new world where they generate continuous and repeat revenue from products, power continuous customer relationships, and unlock ongoing proprietary data and insights from each and every product. With Eon, brands can nearly double the profit per product, driving new customer connections, new business models and services, and efficiency across enterprise operations. One of Eon's clients and partners who's made their portfolio-wide digital identity commitment public is Yoox Net-a-Porter Group, the world leader in online luxury fashion. Yoox Net-a-Porter Group is rolling out digital ID portfolio-wide with Eon, leveraging the product cloud to power direct customer connections, increase sales and services, drive new business models such as resale, monetizing products through first, second, and third sale, and improving efficiency across enterprise operations, unlocking customer insights, supporting services like return management, and driving authentication. Connected products are truly redefining how customers buy, sell, own, and connect with products. We're excited to be here today, and we're looking for new partners to expand the Eon platform ecosystem and bring every product online with a digital identity. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Please take a moment to complete the survey right now, the poll on connecting with Eon. Great, thank you so much. Next up, payments. Critical point in any consumer journey across all channels, definitely for digital commerce. Gravy is redefining the payment industry and payment orchestration platforms as a whole. Welcome, Gravy.
Hello, I'm John Lunn, the CEO and founder of Gravy. Gravy is a remote-first team of payment experts from all over the world, also coming from companies such as PayPal, Cybersource, Square, Recurly, and Google Payments. Gravy was founded last year in August 2020, and we launched in April of this year. We've raised a total of $12.2 million in the seed and Series A from Nika, Activant, GFC, and of course, Plug and Play. Gravy is a cloud-native payments orchestration platform, taking the complexity out of running your own payments infrastructure. We can deploy across the cloud and on the edge, saving you time and money. Our product includes a universal API, making it easy to integrate, a PCI-certified vault, allowing you to be compliant and flexible, a customized no-code workflow engine, and the flexibility to deploy payment providers in a matter of clicks. Gravy works with mid to large-size retailers, e-commerce platforms, banks, and payment service providers. We equip payment teams with the tools to turn payment stacks into nimble, adaptable business advantages rather than technical debt. Gravy operates over multiple business sectors with use cases such as retailers, e-commerce platforms, or banks wishing to go international, manage PCI and network tokenization across multiple vendors, or simply add cutting-edge payment methods such as cryptocurrency or open banking. Before you or one of your portfolio companies implement a new payment method, payment service provider, risk service, or vaulting technology, please come talk to us, as we will save you time, money, and frustration. But more importantly, you will never need to do it ever again. Thank you.
And thank you, Gravy. Please take a moment to complete the poll. Excellent. Thank you for that. Next up, we've noticed lots of innovation on the pay-in space, and now we've begun to notice incredible innovation in the pay-out space. To tell us more, welcome FaZe.
Hello, I'm Kyle Collier, the founder and CEO of FaZe. We've been in business since 2017 and have raised $1.2 million. I've been an entrepreneur for more than a decade, selling tech companies, including EveTab, a digital payments company. As a serial business owner and fintech end user, I discovered firsthand when enterprises need to move money for their clients, they will always choose the most cost-effective and fastest way. Yet the current systems are very ineffective. Whether they are a digital wallet, neobank, gig worker platform, lender, or reward issuer. Based on FaZe's $37,000 average revenue per customer, we know there is a huge multi-billion-dollar market for this technology. Now let's say Jenna wants to withdraw 100 USD from her Crypto.com wallet to her bank account. To make this possible, it will take Crypto.com at least 6 months and cost over $25,000 in fees. If other people like Jenna wanted to do the same, it would cost Crypto.com over $2.5 million and take over 600 hours to make possible in just 100 countries. But Crypto.com found a secret weapon, FaZe, whose technology enables Jenna to receive her $100 as digital cash, a non-fungible token, or crypto, and only takes 6 hours to integrate to the Crypto.com platform. There are no costs, and this enables people like Jenna to receive disbursements in over 130 countries. Jenna was shocked when she realized that she was able to receive her disbursement within seconds versus hours and save money in the process. FaZe is growing over 40% per quarter and generates more than $20,000 in revenue per month. In 2021, we have done over 7.5 million in GMV with just 7 live customers, and there are more than 65 integrating FaZe today. I built multiple tech companies where my fellow executives in their field have worked for our target customers. We're raising 1 million and have 400,000 committed, and invite you to join us on our mission to build the fastest, most economical, non-cash disbursements platform ever. Thank you.
Excellent, and thank you, FaZe. Take a moment now, if you're watching, to complete the poll on connecting with FaZe. Excellent. Thank you so much. So you've seen the pitches so far. It's my favorite time. We're going to come to you live with our Connected and Digital Commerce panel, where we're going to talk to some of these startups that you've just seen and learn a little bit more. So next up, the Connected and Digital Commerce panel.
Awesome. Thank you, Will, and congratulations to the entrepreneurs. It's so good to see everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Very good, thank you.
Very good.
Great to be here.
Great. So, I mean, listen, let's kick off the panel with the idea of how commerce has evolved. I mean, a lot of you have started your company in the last 2 years or so. What was a major trend for you that caused you to even develop that company? I mean, John, I know that you were, I assume, a venture capitalist. You were leading a firm. You decided to, I'm assuming, leave that great job and start a company. Would love to understand why and the problem that you saw that was, that you had to leave for.
Yeah, so my company was born out of frustration, and it's like in a lot of cases, startups are born from seeing a problem over and over again and thinking, why the hell is no one doing anything about that? And then realizing, well, if no one else is, I should probably do something about that. So that's really it. And I think COVID for me really showed the holes in the current the payment stacks of retailers around the world, and accelerated it. So, 6 years of innovation in e-commerce and payments happened all within a year. And that just showed holes in e-commerce and payments that, people had been able to ignore for years, but couldn't anymore. So for me, it's like frustrating problem became frustrating, massive problem. And that was an opportunity. And that's why I started Gravy.
Perry and Kyle, touching on digital payments and all of that, what got you interested in the space?
Yeah, happy to jump in here, Kevin. So Phase is really a brainchild of a really horrible experience I had many years ago. I was Mount Goxed. It's a term for all of the people who lost cryptocurrency in this exchange that got hacked. And I typically have a slide in my deck that actually showcases it because they were trying to set up bank deposits for people across the world because they had a global user base trading and cryptos, and then they essentially couldn't set up a way to get money into people's bank accounts. And they were trying to set it up for over 22 months, and then they got hacked and everyone lost everything, including myself. So that was my big motivator to really start Phase, really to focus on disbursements to global at scale.
Yeah, and for us, go for it, Perry.
Sure. I was just going to say for us, it was much more of an iterative approach. Actually, we had started off in a very different market and ended up zeroing in on what we found to be a pretty pervasive problem, which was the need to actually identify products specifically after they've been used. So our first customer, actually, they had a problem where they were trying to recycle garments, but if you get like a heap of clothes dropped on your doorstep, it's a bit difficult to actually figure out what those clothes are, how to recycle them, and so on. So that was the impetus for us to start Arilla.
Very, very cool. And then, I think there are little kind of hints of everyone's product where, consumers are paying in different formats, right? So, or receiving money in different formats like Phase. So would love to also ask Andreas, how did you come up with Charles? And, you mentioned it a little bit on your pitch, but this is really kind of changing the way that consumers buy and purchase as well.
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. We were, Adi and I, so my co-founder and myself, we were actually on a kite trip in Brazil, and we were discussing kind of what's next in commerce. And we realized we hang around in WhatsApp all day, but we're actually not talking to businesses. And we thought this is going to change at some point. And now is the decision to make whether we are going to be the ones who pioneer that. And yeah, I had a long time strategy consulting job at McKinsey, and I thought like either going to be a boring partner and serving lots of client projects every day, a different one, or I going to start up a venture on my own.
Very, very cool. Maybe starting on kind of this digital future that we're seeing. Obviously, COVID accelerated that digital, kind of lifestyle that everyone has now. Credit cards are essentially the dominant form of payment. Actually, still less than 50% in the US, which is interesting, but I'm sure it will move towards something, much, much larger. But if you can envision this future of, I guess, like a connected world where, let's say, Perry, for Arilla, all the products are connected onto one platform. And then you've got Charles, people can buy any product on any kind of commerce related chat. And then you've got, of course, various different payment methods, including crypto and payout methods as well. So I would love to get your thoughts on like what you envision the world will look like in, let's say, 5-10 years, and how far away do you think this digital future is really for us?
So from our perspective, you go ahead, John.
Yeah. So I think, look, no one enjoys paying for stuff. That's the worst bit of an e-commerce experience. So you don't walk into a store going, I can't wait to pay for things. And I think, look, in my opinion, it's been the same for a number of years, is like payments just got to get the hell out of the way and get to a point where it's seamless and invisible and just happens. But also that means payments needs to work for individuals and the way that they like to run their lives. So yes, credit cards are big at the moment everywhere, but it's a clunky experience and it could be better. And I think there's, you know, as you know, Carl said, with payouts could be better. Like a lot of things are clunky and could be run in a different way. And I think that the next generations coming through are voting with their wallets, as it were. They're not picking cards; they're picking with other ways to pay. And therefore, I think in 10 years' time, you're not going to see how you pay because it should be invisible, should be seamless, but it's going to be the way you want to pay without you making any conscious action. So that's how I think it's going to go.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I think like also when we think about like in-chat commerce, we think about our vision is just like at some point to just click yes and then the transaction is happening. Now we need to work with a little bit card on file and tokenization, and we can make this happen some way in the second transaction. But there's WhatsApp Pay, for instance, in India already enabled for peer-to-peer. There is WhatsApp Pay already in Brazil where it's working for small businesses, and of course aiming for an experience as WeChat is doing it at some point.
Yeah, and I'd like to just echo what John said. You know, payments really just needs to get out of the way. I mean, you know, the focus has to be, you know, on the user experience and the product itself that you know the user's purchasing. Same with disbursements. You know, if it's your money and it's locked in some invisible digital form that you can't use and spend right away, like that's a frustrating experience. So for us, we really see a future where, you know, gig worker platforms, crypto, normal dollars, wherever your money is held in whatever form it's in, you can easily and instantly get that, you know, within seconds in a digital format, and then use it at the point of purchase, whether it's online or in store.
Yeah, agree.
And maybe Perry, sorry, I was just going to bring in Perry as well, just to add about kind of your vision of like a future of digitally collected products.
For sure. I mean, we're a bit on a different side of the landscape with regards to what actually happens to the physical product. I think in 10 years' time, what we'll see is the product itself becoming a bit more of a platform and it actually enable more services, likely digitally powered to the end customer. Although over the next 5 years, I think a lot of those applications, as it were, are really being driven through problems that brands are facing today. So mainly around traceability, making sure that products are being discarded sustainably, or even making sure that the materials you're sourcing are done sustainably, which is at the surface seems like a simple problem, but when you dive into the complexity of many of the supply chains, turns into a multi-year endeavor. So I would say that's kind of where we see it going. Eventually, the product will be a delivery vehicle for much more than just a consumer good, as it were.
It makes a lot of sense. And I like how, you know, we're all touching the consumer experience in some way or form, maybe on the back end and for the merchant or for the actual consumer. And I noticed that several of your pitches in a unique format brought up crypto. And, you know, we've been investing for almost a decade. We've been investing in crypto for almost a decade too. And really in the last 2 years is when things started exploding, right? I mean, I was watching Squawk Box last night, and right after they covered P&G's newest CEO, they covered the value of Dogecoin. And now we're starting to see enterprise changing and adapting crypto in unique formats. I'm curious on how you look at that, how that could have a potential intersection into commerce, either directly or indirectly, for the future.
Yeah, happy to take the first stab at that. So, you know, having been in crypto as long as I have, you know, I think it's just a faster, cheaper, more effective version of digital money. You know, everyone's taking their stab at, I think, trying to solve the double spend problem. PayPal, you know, being kind of the first, you know, paramount digital kind of money service out there, and then crypto just kind of trumped it in such a unique way where it's not just about the capital aspect or the replacement of actual money. It is enabling, you know, new business models, you know, new company types, new ways to raise funds, new ways to grow and interact with your audience and build like a community around your product and things like that. So I really think, you know, it's going to be digital money 2.0. But I also think, you know, it's really enabling a much more diverse set of companies to emerge in a much quicker and aggressive way.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, crypto could change how people bank, and I think the big opportunity is, crypto could take that leap. Like we are seeing our current banks starting to think about charging for checking accounts, etc., and sort of ruling out a certain group of people in the world that aren't eligible for that or are not able to pay for that. Crypto could provide a new way of banking for a lot of people who can't bank today. And if that's the case of bringing it back to payments, then if that's how you choose to pay, then how you choose to collect your money or bank, then you need to be able to spend that money. So that kind of then brings it into checkout. I mean, there's been a number of experiments around crypto at checkout that perhaps haven't been successful to date, but you are seeing, PayPal's made a big move into this space. Now Stripe made an announcement last week of bringing back a new crypto team. So I do think you'll start to see certain cryptos and maybe stable coins at checkout becoming more and more prevalent, but I think they're going to be in certain areas, and I think they're exciting. The biggest barrier here is the retailers, right? The retailers need to make a decision to implement crypto with a certain amount of risk, right? So they don't know if people are going to want to use it yet. No one knows if people are going to want to use it yet at checkout, but it's a risk you have to take. And that's partly, from a Gravy perspective, that's why we're making it easy so that you can try it and see what happens. So it's not costing you engineering and time and money. But it's there, it's happening, it's a thing, it's not going away. So really, retailers need to be thinking about how this fits into their long-term strategy.
And I'd love to also, super interesting what you and Carl just mentioned, John. I'd love to also get maybe another perspective on kind of like the blockchain crypto space. I want to also introduce Natasha from Eon. Maybe you could do a quick intro about yourself, but also would love to get your thoughts on, given you're creating a digital ID for each of these products, kind of where do you see the future heading in terms of, do you think brands should be investing in maybe completely digital products or accessing this kind of metaverse world as well?
Thank you. I'm Natasha, founder and CEO of Eon. And I think I was listening into what Perry was saying, and the concept of product as platform really, really resonates. I think so. Eon is a connected products platform. We enable brands to digitize their products, and we act as sort of the bridge between this super sort of conceptual NFT world and the actual physical product. And I think there's a space within the next few years that needs to link the virtual and the physical. And what we see today is that brands are really in a physical manufacturing business today, and here we have NFTs, but there's like this space in between, right? How do we create the bridge between this physical product and this digital world? And with digitizing products, we're seeing that brands can actually double the profitability per product, right? They can turn that product into a point of sale, into a media channel. They can monetize that product through new business models like resale, and they can increase the efficiency in which they manage that product through enterprise operations by this identity. So I think it's one simple step to ID your products and unlock this sort of both current opportunities and value, and then this sort of future ecosystem.
The one thing I would add to what Natasha is saying is that with the one interesting part about the opportunity that exists with blockchain, I think is how it intersects with re-commerce. It's a much easier way for a brand to capture some of the opportunity if, let's say, you build into a smart contract anytime a product sells, the owner of the brand owner essentially unlocks a certain royalty payment from that. And I know there are some small brands that kind of live on Discord right now that are doing this today, but I think it's going to enter a much broader market very soon.
Yeah, and you also mentioned, Perry, about kind of like the brands that live on Discord. Would love to also get Andreas's kind of point of view here. Are you seeing consumers pay, not just through chat, but various other platforms? And do you see that trend continuing?
Yeah, so as we build our platform, we are like really focusing on getting the experience in chat. With payment, it is lots of reasons it's not really possible to do like the first purchase in chat. So that's not really kind of where we double down on. It's really getting first people chatting in there. I think 3-4 years ago, we had like all the world looking on chatbots and thought like they're gonna be the remedy to everything. We figured out that's not going to work, and now we're really going a step back and saying like, hey, let's get the human experience that we actually were used to have in a shop or with a salesperson. Let's get this actually into chat and kind of just reach customers we haven't been reaching before, and just being more efficient and being more human in our interactions. And I think that is what we really focus on, and getting this right. There's a long way to go. And payment is for us something we plug in the end and just leverage kind of what is now working in e-commerce. And I think it's done the right way also to like decapsule those things, right? Those experiences, and being there very like headless to bring another buzzword in. And that's what we see like also how our clients build the experience.
So Andreas, building off of that, right? I mean, I think all of your startups, and John, eloquently said it. What we're seeing oftentimes is you're working on next gen. All of you are working on next gen technology, and you're often dealing with an industry that is more risk averse and looking to take more of a safer bet. The classic bread and butter that maybe some of the retailers they work with has been in-store sales, store associate talking to the individual. Any of you are saying let's maybe keep that model, but let's innovate it. So what have you found successful in your conversations, and how do you almost innovate the pitch, if you will, because you are working with an industry that has a changing mind?
Yeah, happy to take a first stab at that. So as you can imagine, like big brands, if you said the word crypto to them many years ago, they thought it was only for very bad things on the internet. So getting them on board with, the idea of, what people want to make purchases of your brand, with this currency, but they can't because your brand is not accepted. So maybe there needs to be some kind of phase in between where they can go from, these digital assets or digital stores of value to your brand very quickly and easily. And this is one of the many reasons we're in the business of what we do, and you even inspired the name of the company. So I definitely see and understand that there is a huge kind of transitional step that needs to happen with a lot of large brands, and it's just kind of walking them through that. So you're not going to be able to get them to adopt all these crazy technologies right away. You kind of have to make a very iterative approach and kind of show them kind of value at step one, because they're not going to see the value at step 3 until they start to understand step 1. So it's really an iterative approach for sure.
Yeah, I think I have a very specific example, because I think also in our story, right, we pivoted from a fashion brand to actually being a SaaS provider. And now we are also, of course, changing our product and our value proposition every now and then. And we're just like reformulating and putting speed to value first. I think that is what we're seeing. So there is kind of, you can bring a conversion experience into chat, which has like a lot of different things that need to work out. Yeah. But we also now see it's way easier, of course, to set up a WhatsApp newsletter. Yeah, that's like not really intrusive. You can really run decoupled from any other system, and get really fast to value, and then think about more complex experiences that also involve more departments and more systems to integrate and more processes to change, and really have a journey. Yeah, and get easy and fast to like first value, which also excites then all the important stakeholders on the client side.
I think it's also clear, like the game changed over the last 2 years pretty majorly. So it just changed. I mean, you would assume some of your client base would always shop in store, would never shop online, and guess what? They had to, and they liked it, and they're staying online. So everything changed, and I think they're saying 6 years faster. I think it's even faster. So part of this is as the world changes, you either change or you die. That's what happened to the dinosaurs, right? So a certain amount of this has accelerated the adoption of new technologies by retailers, because they have to keep up with the people that have changed and have like benefited from the move to online. And I think as I said before, small potholes in the road suddenly became massive gaps. for a lot of places. And I think that's an opportunity for newer and better ways to do things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think describing the change, John, if you fully agree with you. And it's even now thinking about the next step, right? And it's like going to e-commerce for us, it's pretty obvious, right? And I'm thinking about the next experience that even comes. And now we see some players actually leapfrogging because they say like, oof, I actually missed out the last opportunity and really kind of are behind. And now this time I won't be second. So actually we have some of those clients as well.
Actually, Andreas, interesting point you bring up. So DoorDash obviously is going into their own grocery space. I forget what the name is, but what we're often seeing is the tech company that was looking to assist the industry becomes the industry. Right? You're looking to innovate, let's say last mile delivery, but then you're like, wait, why don't we just innovate all of grocery? Putting you on the spot, I mean, you're innovating the consumer touch point with the brand. Do you ever want to be back to being a brand again?
Well, that's probably 5 to 10 years ahead. Maybe strategic decisions change when facts change, right? And realities change. And I think right now we focus to do the next steps. We're super excited to have the opportunity we have, and we stay also a little bit where we are. But yeah, we still run our brand, by the way. We still run it as a laboratory to not get loose, really understand like what is like the day-to-day operations and what are issues and pain points. So we keep it close.
Maybe one last question. For example, I guess for connected products, Perry and Natasha, you would have to say like, this is kind of the next step. Like in order to gain more insights on your consumers, in order to do so many more things with your products, you need to take that step, right? Like, what is that? I guess like, how do you connect with brands and help them understand that it is time, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, but it's now that you should be thinking about these and these changes, and maybe everybody else can jump in as well. How do you help brands make that next step into innovation?
I could start. I think it's super interesting because we see digital ID isn't usually the thing that a brand is thinking about, right? They're like, I want to do re-commerce, or I want to connect to my customer, or I want to manage my returns better. Like there are all these other things that people think about as their initiatives, but digital ID is sort of like the underlying enabler of all of those, right? Like you can't run a resale business if you can't ID your products. You can't provide transparency if you don't have serialized ID. You can't put a product on the blockchain if this product doesn't have a unique ID. So it's sort of like there are these fundamental things that we're seeing that brands have to do as the first step. And so to go back to kind of Kevin's question, like how do you introduce this to a retailer? We view ourselves as like that underground sort of infrastructure to enable brands to more easily start innovating on all of those exciting things. Like give your products an item level ID such that now you can have fun doing customer experiences, scale those new business models. It's a little bit like, I'd say just like the base level infrastructure to unlock this world of new possibilities around each product.
For sure. And I'd say from our perspective, like one lesson that we've had is that at a practical level, there definitely needs to be, you need to have the ability to identify what that smallest sort of MVP is for you to roll out, because otherwise, if most of these discussions involve multiple departments, if everyone's around the table discussing all the details of what needs to be done, even just to roll out a digital ID, like Natasha said, it feels pretty quickly like you're boiling the ocean. So to scale it back, figure out what's that one kind of nugget of value that we can unlock in a relatively short period of time, without going through like 2 18-month development cycles. And that gives us a bit of a roadmap that we can action on for the future. So that's been something I think really important for us, especially since we like integrate upstream in the supply chain. So anything that you need to roll out right away across 1,500 suppliers is obviously not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. love what Perry is saying. I'd like to add to that. So I think it's one of this MVP idea. What we saw what was pretty successful is kind of managing all the success factors. So we actually introduce a new channel. It's not just about a piece of software. It's about the people that operate that software. It's about like, what's the value proposition to the end customer? Like, how is it integrated into the website? What is the possibilities to start a chat? So we have like an internal marketing agency that really is creative and just coming up with new designs and new ways to do marketing campaigns for our clients. So it seems a little bit inefficient that we do the full package, but when you want to kind of really create unrivaled experiences, you need to sometimes go extraordinary ways, and that also what we see is working well.
Yeah, very similar experience for us. Like what we did is we just aggregated unique data that these brands never had insights into or would not be able to get without us. And as soon as we had that, we instantly became super interesting to them because that's something that they couldn't obtain otherwise anywhere else. And as soon as we kind of had that one thing that they wanted, engagement started picking up, conversations started picking up, everything kind of changed because they were like, oh, that's interesting. That is very different from our data. How did you get that? Who do you talk to? What did you choose? And then they start asking you questions. And then that's where you can kind of, innovate and give them ideas or plant nuggets in their head for future innovation.
The value of valuable data, totally agree. And obviously the biggest tech companies in the world are really just data plays that monetize on that. So I asked you before about how you innovated your retail pitch. I'm curious, you have the Fortune 500 on the line. How do retailers innovate? And what would you recommend to your future clients in working with your solution?
Just to go first from our side, I would say that for us, the unlock is really around experimentation. I mean, I think it's around not to be afraid to experiment. And in some cases, some of the things that we're talking about, one of the reasons they're so exciting is because it's not really clear what that value unlock is going to be. And you just need to, I think, experiment with different on-ramps to that in a small way, in a way that makes sense, obviously, both financially and from a scaling perspective. But not to be afraid to experiment with small things here and there that are tied to very clear KPIs that you can build off of.
Kind of follow on from there, like to experiment, you need a flexible platform that allows you to experiment. And I think from my perspective, taking your payment infrastructure away from something that's custom, is in-house, is going to take a long time to change. Moving to something that allows you to experiment with, whether it's crypto, alternative payouts, chat pay, etc. All of that needs a flexible platform that allows you to experiment as product and finance people, not necessarily as engineers. So really build the foundations now while you can that allows you to experiment as quickly as you possibly could.
Yeah. Natasha first, please.
Oh, okay. I think one of the interesting things that we're seeing with when brands and retailers are the most successful with innovation. Can you guys hear me? I can't tell. You all just froze.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hold on.
Maybe I go next then for a second until Natasha's back. Yeah, I think what we see well is kind of, again, a fast road to value. We see like our clients also starting with like one vertical or like one channel. We don't only do WhatsApp, we also do Facebook Messenger or Instagram messaging and things like that. We have now a do-it-yourself retailer that start with like a chimney consultation, like they don't do the whole portfolio, but do like one part. And we see that really working well. It's also like taking out a little bit the risk, seeing on early value, getting stakeholders on board. It's very important that those that we work with that are like super excited and super convinced and they really want to attack the industry. They want to be early adopters and want to stand out. And then that's the key recipe for success.
Welcome back, Natasha.
Sorry, I'm in a hotel, so it's a little bit choppy. I was just going to say quickly that we're seeing a lot of success when retailers have cross-department collaboration within their organizational structure. So when you're working on connected products, the value is delivered to your marketing, right? Because the product is a marketing channel. The value is also to your IT and your operations, and also to your sustainability and to your new business models. So we see a lot of success when brands and retailers are able to have a cross-department task force and that can work across these different components, because I think the future of value and innovation is at the intersection of these disciplines and figuring out how to embed that within each product.
And then Natasha, is that an innovation team you're finding, or is that like almost like a panel of different cross-functional groups?
Yeah, it's not an innovation team, interestingly. The brands will set up like across the different business units an implementation task force that brings in expertise from the different groups. Because it's about, at this point with Eon, they're scaling their product ID. And so they need different stakeholders from each department involved. So it's very interesting to see. And when they have that, what they call a task force, we're seeing them very quickly implement and capture the value across all of these different departments with one initiative of digital ID.
Very cool. Well, thank you, everybody. That was the last question. And thank you so much for joining us. This was super insightful. Of course, anybody in the audience who wants to connect, please feel free to reach out. These are incredible experts in their field. So, please feel free to lean on these experts and also connect in the future. So yeah, thank you so much for joining again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
Take
us.
care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Just incredible. A lot of different ideas for me to take away, whether that's connected products and being a brand, perhaps without even making anything, with starting at step 1 in speed to value, or even the lengths you'll go to not get Mount Goxed again. Hopefully you took something away. Thank you to the panelists and to Kevin and Tanya. That was incredible. Now to introduce our next group. It's my pleasure. He is not a stranger, but he is the newest member of the Plug and Play Brand and Retail's venture team. Please welcome Ryan Bluestone.
Thanks, Will. Hey, everyone. It's great to be here today. So as Kevin mentioned a little bit earlier, we're super excited by all of the innovation we're seeing in the retail technology and last mile delivery space. So without further ado, that is our next topic here. And we're super excited to introduce Sarah. So waste has become an even larger problem in the retail industry as more products are being shipped direct to consumer. Sarah here is helping brands to reduce the economic and environmental impact felt by returns. Take it away.
I'm Carrie Lee, VP of Sales and Marketing at Sarah. Sarah is an AI ML-powered software company helping online brands prevent and automate returns. Eco Returns by Sarah is an end-to-end return solution. What that means is Sarah's software starts at the time of order, preventing returns, assessing the risk for return, and then following with reducing returns through mitigation efforts during the return request process in the returns portal. One thing that makes Sarah unique from other returns automation platforms out there is our AI capabilities to assess the risk for returns at the time of order. Think of it as having a return psychic, except better. Computer vision also helps assess return products to grade them for resale and upcycling programs when they come back to the warehouse, which is a huge impact on promoting sustainability and circularity programs. Thanks for your time and attention, and please visit us at sara.io.
Awesome. So you guys should be seeing a poll come up on your screen. Just feel free to answer that and we'll get moving. Awesome. So security, surveillance, loss prevention, public safety. Our next startup, Loco AI, is on a mission to solve some of the most pressing problems in retail.
Hi, branded retailers. My name is Joseph Zaki. I am the founder and CEO of Loco AI. We build synthetic data and machine learning at scale to solve the world's hardest safety, security, loss prevention, and risk management problems. We founded Loco as a direct result of the Route 91 festival shooting in Las Vegas. From the very start, our mission is to provide technology to make the world a safer place. We were funded by Epic Games in 2019 with a mega grant. That effort led to a sweeping US patent for synthetic data in computer vision that was awarded this year in May. One of our beachhead customers is the Port of Virginia. We are providing state-of-the-art computer vision and machine learning solutions that is transforming the port to improve their safety, security, and operations across the entire enterprise. Our solutions have led to a drastic reduction in safety incidents, worker compensation claims, and insurance costs. What used to take 20 hours per week of manual incident checks, we've reduced down to 2 minutes. That's a 600% speed improvement. Out of our plug-and-play experience, we found another market niche in the direct-to-consumer space for true-to-size apparel fitting using augmented reality with computer vision on smartphones. We have more customers, more patents, and so much more on the way. We're currently raising our Series A and looking to connect with investors and brand and retail partners who are looking to embrace the state-of-the-art of synthetic data, machine learning, and computer vision to transform their businesses. Thank you for your time and consideration. We're looking forward to connecting with you.
Awesome, thank you. Up next, we have Dragonfly AI. Dragonfly AI is leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience technologies to help accurately predict and optimize content prediction.
Hello, my name is David Mitchell, and I'm one of the co-founders of Dragonfly AI. We thought, what if you could predict what consumers see first when they look at any piece of content across any channel? Well, today you can with Dragonfly AI. There's a lot of content, and more importantly, there's more channels than ever before. Consumers are seeing content all over the place, whether it be on digital signage or mobile. That means it's getting harder for brands to make sure that their communications are actually cutting through all of that noise. And with Dragonfly AI, we give these brands the tools to measure the performance of that content. We built a product suite that can measure both in-store, video content, online, pretty much any content across any channel. We can predict what people will see first in the first millisecond they are looking at a piece of content. Our journey so far, we've been a spin out from Queen Mary University. We launched in 2018. In that time, we've built a fantastic team of 20 people based in the UK, and we now have 60 global customers. We're racing towards our Series A metrics, and with that investment, we will be able to improve our commercial growth, invest further in our technology, and also expand further into the US. And we've raised about $2.5 million investment to date. We're lucky enough to work with some of the best brands in the world, and these brands are actually starting to see the importance of using our technology to measure the increase of conversion or sales. And we have some fantastic case studies with McDonald's, how we help them do exactly that. With GSK, they have now turned into one of our best and biggest customers. They have licenses all over the world, and we really do help them cut through and make sure that their content is performing. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. Understanding why customers choose us over them is essential to business success. Up next, we have startup Uncrowd, who is helping businesses increase market share by sharing the answer to this.
Come on, time to get up. On to the airport, plug and play. Hi, we're Uncrowd, and we're on our way to the Silicon Valley area to come and show you guys Uncrowd's experience analytics for market share growth. Hi, yeah, we're Richard and Rocky. We're the founders of Uncrowd. Uncrowd is a 4-year-old startup. We're at Series A level. We've just raised $4 million to accelerate our growth, particularly in the US, where we're looking for great customers to take advantage of the Uncrowd experience analytics for market share growth product. We're also interested in starting to talk to Series B partners, which we'll look to roll next year at some point. We made it. We're here. And that's what Uncrowd does. We turn up. That's why we've come thousands of miles across the planet to plug and play in Sunnyvale, California, because we want to bring face to face our extraordinary Uncrowd experience analytics for market share growth. Because the key to market share growth is understanding your relative attractiveness. And the only way to understand your relative attractiveness is to use the Uncrowd platform. Our tools are the only tools on the planet capable of explaining what makes you more attractive than your competitors using equitable data, the same data across the entire set. You have to see this face to face, and we are here for the rest of the week. You want to see it in action? Let's talk, because we're already in your stores. What are you doing? Okay, right, let's go get those bicycles and cycle home. Well,
Awesome, thank you. Built with the complexities of retail in mind, our next startup, Zipline, helps HQ streamline and coordinate communication with the rest of the field. Welcome, Zipline.
Hi, I'm Melissa Wong. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zipline. Zipline is the operations platform that's powering retail's most complex work. So what is that, you're wondering? A lot of the changes, a lot of the transformation is actually happening in store, and it's the hardest to control. They're really turning their stores into hubs for shipment processing, making it an experience for customers on the other end. So there's so much complexity that's happening in store today. One of the reasons that I started Zipline was actually because I lived and breathed retail for over a decade and specifically focused on how do I get stores to achieve the brand standards. The reason that our brand strategies were breaking down and that things weren't being executed in store because there wasn't an effective communication solution. And it actually was such a huge struggle that I actually left retail after 10 years to create this solution that I always wanted, to be able to keep up with shifting customer needs, to be able to send communication down to stores about new technologies, marketing, market trends, health and safety standards, and have faith and confidence and be able to have that peace of mind that these things are actually being delivered and stored. So, what is Zipline doing? We're a communication platform. We help manage workload or tasks. I hate the word task because it's so punitive and old school, but we're helping people elevate and give visibility to work and ensure accountability. We're a super easy and engaging communications platform. And as a result, Zipline customers are outperforming non-Zipline customers in execution across multiple categories. It's one of the reasons that we have such amazing customers like Nike and Lululemon, Casper, Warby Parker, Rite Aid. We're helping with a lot of these brand transformations and doing it in a way that really supports store teams. When this all comes together, retailers can achieve amazing results. And it's one of the reasons that the SVP of Global Operations of American Eagle actually said to me, thank you so much for, bringing Zipline into the world, essentially. I've had to roll out so many new innovations, different ways of working, different operational practices from BOPIS to curbside pickup, other new technologies. And I was able to turn on a dime. Our store teams knew what to do. It was an incredibly complex time frame, and it made everything really simple for the organization. You've made me more agile. So that's kind of like the highest praise that we can get, enabling you to achieve your strategies. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Zipline. And last but certainly not least, we have Sook. Sook is helping to maximize the utility of empty spaces by outfitting them with digital content displays.
Hi, I'm John. I'm the CEO and founder of Sook. It's been amazing to be part of the PMP cohort at such an exciting time for Sook. So what we do is we rent empty spaces by the hour for people to do whatever they want in. We've got an incredible digital fit out that you can see behind me that allows anyone to put whatever digital content they want on the walls of a space to do whatever they want inside. Allows you to focus the right times for your audience in physical spaces and not pay for shops on a traditional basis. We are solving the fact that it's very, very expensive and a high amount of effort to occupy shops. And when you think about it, a Monday and a Saturday are completely different spaces at times on the high street. So why would you take a static retail solution across all 7 days? Using Sook, you can focus on the right hours for you, and no longer are you going to have to take a shop for a decade, fill it full of stuff, staff it for 7 days a week, and then hope that it makes enough money on the weekend to make it all economically viable. We take care of all of that and make things much easier for you. And it's not just about big brands. I mean, we're working with Uber, MasterCard, Bradley, SumUp, and many, many more, but it's also about allowing small businesses to thrive. So here you've got some Gen Z Depop sellers, you have influencers. These are people that couldn't previously access physical space, and using our model, they are easily able to generate income for themselves. Our traction is massive. We've got nearly 12% growth week on week in terms of sales, and we are raising money. So our ask is really looking for investment partners. We've raised over £1 million of our seed round, and we're looking for the right partners for the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Sook. We're super excited to be joined today by such a great group of startups to discuss the future of innovation in retail tech and last mile. So without further ado, let's get on to our panel. Thanks.
Hello, welcome everybody. It is so lovely to see everyone's faces again.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. You, Tanya. Can see you in the plug and play office. We're right above you. Awesome. So, I mean, this is a really, really interesting topic. I think you guys are all covering kind of various aspects of, the kind of consumer journey. So maybe we could start just kind of at the beginning. I mean, something super, super general. Would love to have all of you introduce yourself quickly as well. Just a one-liner to remind the audience what companies you're representing and what you guys do. But overall, I mean, first question, right? I mean, of course, the pandemic has seen a huge shift in consumer behavior, but also I think that corporations are now changing, what they're kind of focused on, their, initiatives, et cetera, as well. So would love to get that kind of perspective. What are you seeing amongst your customers? The change of priorities from the beginning of the pandemic to now that we're kind of opening up and things are, starting to come back to normal.
Yeah, if you don't mind me grabbing that first. So I'm Richard, CEO of Uncrowd. We're experience analytics for market share growth. It's been a really interesting curve. So you had that initial explosion of, okay, all of these blocked digital transformations within retail businesses, where people have been bidding for budgets for years and the rationale for doing it had kind of dragged along. Suddenly at the beginning of last year, bang, those budgets were flying through and all of that rush of digital innovation happened so quickly. And it was amazing to see. It was a wonderful kind of gold rush almost. And being in California right now, we know how gold rushes go. The curve comes back down again. And there has been a return to, okay, what do we do to bring that digital experience back into the stores? And we've seen a lot of startups this morning as well that address exactly that point. How do you now blend those two back together? And so we're seeing again a need to understand those investments. How are they paying off? What is happening to traffic in the real world? What do we now need to invest in next? And that's fascinating for startups like all of us to be around.
I'll go next.
I was like,
Hi.
around.
I am Joseph Zaki. I'm the CEO and founder of Loco AI. And so we build synthetic data, machine learning, and computer vision to address a number of industries and problems. We got into brand and retail out of seeing the need for synthetic data to build new products and innovation. And it's been an incredible experience being with Plug and Play. We found a market niche in the brand and retail space for true to fit using augmented reality and computer vision. So as the pandemic has kind of established new patterns and buying behavior, we've noticed that direct to consumer is absolutely king here, but also still facing these problems with return rates, and really that's still being kind of a linchpin in a lot of economic loss still with returns. So we're seeing that our technology, looking out a little bit further, we've been talking to a lot of the partners and the mentors with the accelerator, Plug and Play Accelerator. It's been amazing insight into these big corporations, well, both big corporations, but also the smaller ones as well. And now we're working on patented technology to address this true to fit need. So I think for us, like being an innovative kind of trendsetter in computer vision and machine learning, that we're seeing an absolute traction on this side of the space, and a whole new market for us. And that's very exciting. I mean, we had not anticipated the reaction that we got, but it absolutely makes sense that the patterns have changed. People are shopping from home and they're looking for frictionless ways to really get their hands on products that are their size in the exact way that they expect it to be, and increasing that engagement with customers on a very personal level.
I'll jump in here since. Oh, you can go.
No, go. It's like I'm looking at the screen. Go for it. Okay.
I'm at the bottom on mine. I was assuming I'd just go last. But anyway, I'm Carrie. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at Sara, and I wanted to follow Joseph's introduction because we also deal with returns. We help prevent and automate returns. And part of the trend of online shopping during COVID is it has increased a lot, which means returns have as well. The difference between online shopping and in person is pretty obvious. You can't try stuff on. So especially for apparel brands, it's very difficult to try to give the sizing chart, do everything you can to try to prevent returns. But another thing that I found in dealing with our customers is about a third of e-commerce brands direct to consumer have some sort of portal or way to automate the return process. But so much fewer have any sort of strategy or AI type solution like Sara's to actually prevent or mitigate the returns and offer exchanges and build that into their loyalty program.
I guess I'll go next. So I'm Melissa. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zipline. From a return aspect, we handle the more complex part, which is the employees, right? So we're the operational platform that helps drive better execution in stores for brands like Nike, Lulu, Warby Parker, et cetera. So I think, from a store operations and store perspective, there are three key themes that we're seeing as emerging. And I think it's because as we look at our customer data, we see 3x the amount of direction and communication that's been sent pre-COVID. So people, one, are looking at how do I be more agile? Because customers' expectations have changed. And it's not just around one direction or another, like it used to be pre-pandemic. Like, is it like buy online, pick up in store? It's like buy online, pick up on store times 1,000, right? So people are trying to figure out which path is the best path through analytics. How do I be more agile? The second trend we're really seeing is how do I do more with less, right? So we're in a tight labor market across the board, startups and retail alike, which is very, the Great Resignation has really impacted all of us. And we're seeing, with the bigger complexity to my business, how do I get things done in a more effective and efficient way, potentially with less employees at hand? And then the third thing that we're really seeing is people, you guys, Rocky and Kara, you touched on it earlier, just finally delivering on the seamless customer journey. So retail has always had this promise of the seamless customer journey. And I think COVID has really accelerated anywhere, anytime, in any channel. And how are we best using our different channels to deliver to customers in the way that they want?
I've been biding my time to the last bit because I was too much of a coward to jump in. I'm John. I'm the CEO of Souk. We rent shops by the hour, and we've got a cool system where using Canva, you can deploy whatever content you want onto the walls of these spaces, and so rapidly occupy them, at the touch of a button. And what that does is it drives accessibility to shops. And of course, the one thing we're seeing is that there's a lot of empty shops across the world, really, but there's plenty of people that want to use them. And it's been fascinating kind of supporting a whole new breed of occupier and allowing a Depop seller to compete with an established brand, because no longer do they need to play the game of real estate. And we're seeing all sorts of different uses, from a guy who proposed to his girlfriend in one of our spaces, rented it for an hour, turned it into a shrine. Bit weird, but she said yes. To established high street brands like Radley, who are a handbag brand in the UK, that are using us on a sort of semi-traditional basis and trying to figure out which days of the week make sense for them. So I think it's not really a trend, but I think we're in that wonderful moment where everyone's reflecting on whether what they did before was totally bonkers and adjusting their strategies as a result. And we're trying to serve as many people that are prepared to think differently as possible.
I think it's worth adding as well that we've been in California now, and we've been up to Seattle and down to LA for 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. And there is a giant difference in feel between the UK and the US in terms of where you are post, and this part of the US, the West Coast, where you are post-COVID. The UK essentially is back to normal. We are essentially not. It was a shock to be asked for a vaccine passport to get into a bar. Luckily, we all have those things, and we could get our drink, which is very important while you're away. It's very hot in California. You've got to have a cool down. But you guys are a little bit further behind that recovery curve. You've got probably 2 months, 3 months before it comes back. So there's a little bit of nervousness on this coast, I think, about will that come back? Will that feel to these major marketplaces return? If London, Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Scotland, if any of those places are a guide, yes, it will. And that asks its own new questions, because it starts to speak to some of the things that John mentioned. What's going to happen when people want that physical presence again? Customers want it, and retailers are then competing for it. And people like John have managed to nab some of those great spots to put the independent retailers and the independent ideas in front of customers. It is a new gold rush in a really fabulous, it's a great time to be a retailer.
I would add to that, though, LA, maybe, and the rest of California, if you look further south, like we're in Orange County, California, Irvine, California. Yeah. And so here, it is a different world. So the way that the things operate down here, very different from Los Angeles and Northern California. Probably resembles a little bit closer to the UK, I would imagine.
We stopped off in Bakersfield on the way down to LA, and that was a very different experience. You're quite right.
Yeah, that is an interesting place to be, sure.
And yeah, I mean, I would love to kind of follow on that. Are you in Orange County seeing that there is a rush, back into in-store? Do people want to go and like touch and feel the products? How is that experience? Is it going to go back to the kind of like pre-pandemic stage, or do you really see, I guess, like, consumer habits in terms of like buying everything online staying? And then the reason why I ask is, is there a future, let's say, for example, returns is a huge problem. Is there a future where you can merge kind of like the online and offline experience experience to a way where we can bring down returns, given that returns in store is only 8%, whereas online it's 30, right? So like, how can we like merge that kind of online to offline experience and pave a better way for the future as well?
I mean, Tanya, I think it's a really good question. And I would have to say from my observation here in Orange County that we're absolutely seeing a hybrid model, no question about it. I mean, Amazon has disrupted. I'll give you a perfect example. We could not get a conference table delivered here for the life of us. I mean, we went through so many dealers and they're like, oh yeah, we have it in stock. And then no, they don't have it in stock. Or it was like, or it got broken as they're taking it out of, the warehouse or something crazy. So we were forced to go to Amazon to literally like deck out our office. And so I can tell you for certain that the online behavior will absolutely be a thing from here on out. There's no question about it. I think that what we say here in Orange County is that there's certain things people will go out of their way to have a personal experience with. There was a Mercedes-Benz electric car event that we just had last week. 1,000 people showed up. I mean, there's a Pitbull concert. The whole thing sold out. So I think there's definitely these kind of cultural moments that will absolutely persist in the physical world. But I would say, the digital retail space has absolutely been disrupted and has never. Maybe there is a kind of a bounce, an adjustment going to happen. But I think it's moved in the direction already so heavily in the digital space. I don't see it coming retracting.
So I'd like to add on there too. Oh, do you want to go first?
No, after you.
No. So I would like to say that I agree that the landscape has totally changed. We focus a lot on the physical location, and we have actually seen the purpose of it pivoting, right? So it is really, and it's kind of like gone both ways. It's kind of bifurcating. So the store used to be a place of like commerce, right? Transaction, and we see brands either making their stores a place of experience, community, right? So think like Sephora, think Lululemon, think about a place to learn and educate or do something in interactive in the space, or also distribution hubs, right? Or using employees as part of a distribution channel to either put things in lockers and malls, to run things to the curb, like to give it to an Uber driver to deliver to your house. And some retailers are also doing both within one. So experience in the fronts and back end in the back. And that level of operational complexity is, as you can imagine, incredibly difficult to manage. But that's how we do see, and it could be part of returns, right? So I'm looking at the return folks. So we are seeing that manifestation and evolution of a physical location, and kind of like those two different aspect points.
And I'm glad you went first, because I'm going to agree with everything you said, which makes my life a lot easier. Aside to say, I mean, we're finding that physical spaces are far less about retail. Perhaps, less than 40%. In fact, we make more revenue after 6 p.m. on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays than we do in the rest of the day combined, which is pretty telling about perhaps what shops should be used for. And I think also sort of moving to a post-stock environment is not to say that we don't use distribution channels. It's just there isn't the same element of inefficiency around what is currently present in shops. Stock was the point of defensibility. The shop was the distribution channel, and now what you need in a space can be much more tailored to the person that's in it, and that is presumably going to be very helpful to retailers in terms of not having billions of dollars of stock sitting on shelves, only some of which gets sold.
There's a really important truth here, which needs to be, it's much bigger than all of us, which needs to be recognized, is that what's happened, and incidentally, we are agnostic. We analyze online, offline relationship with both. What has happened before the pandemic, and this is the driver of the change, not the pandemic. Human beings don't change their behaviors permanently in such a short period of time. It just doesn't happen. It's never happened. The Second World War did not change things like social equality, for example, despite 5 years of forced kind of women were working in factories, they left their home, there was equality that blossomed, and most of those jobs disappeared by 1946. Human beings don't change that quickly. What has changed over 15 years is that we've gone from being an economy in which retailers could essentially dictate. Retailers, as John said, could say, well, we've got the product, we've got the stock, so we can dictate access to that stock. We can put our stores where we want them to be. We can arrange them in the way that suits us. We can set things up for our benefit. Two things have changed. We have now got massive visibility of our choices like never before. We can see our entire range of choices across the globe. You know, if I want steaks when we get back home, I can get them from the local butcher, the supermarket. I can get them delivered. I can get them from Argentina if I want to, safely, easily, directly. And that combination of massive visibility of choice and safe access to those choices, what that's done is that's put the customer in charge. So the customer is now the person who says, I want it like this. That's the major change. It's not the pandemic. The pandemic has accelerated what was already in train. And when John talks about being far busier in the evenings, that's because customers, we won't tolerate having to leave work early to go and do something anymore. We want to go and do it to our schedule. We want to access those experiences that Melissa talked about. We want to access those experiences on our terms. And again, the businesses here dealing with returns, we want to sit with a great mountain of options in front of us and send back what we don't want. And the retailer just has to deal with it. Whereas in the past, retailers would have made, I'm a retailer, we would have made horrible rules up to make that difficult for customers. That's what's changed. We can't do that anymore. And that's what's so exciting for all of us.
I think a couple of trends that you're touching on, one is personalization. I know, Rich, your company's Uncrowd. If you want to order steaks, there's one called Crowd Cow where you can share parts of
oh my God,
with other people. But to circle back to Tanya's question, I think one of the things you were alluding to was what are some of the challenges for handling online shopping? And of course, I'm selfish in thinking about returns. But for omni-channel brands, another issue that we're facing right now is a lot of returns fraud. So people will buy online, return in store, or vice versa. And so having the ability to reconcile purchase orders, logos, tags, and handle all of the increased fraud is also a challenge.
So super interesting theme that we're going with the panel. I love the macro angle. I mean, I think on the last panel I mentioned last night, I just couldn't sleep, so I was watching CNBC, and they were talking a lot about, of course, some major things that are occurring, right? Inflationary periods. Yellen is talking about potentially injecting cash flow or having some kind of interest rate hike. Melissa, you mentioned the great reassessment, great resignation. Honestly, I go to any restaurant these days, you'll see a banner, we're hiring, right? And I've heard of several restaurants that are, you get a free meal just for interviewing, or a retailer that says, hey, you get a free piece of clothing for whatever you're doing. I'm sure this has happened. This conversation is occurring from the mailroom to the boardroom this could potentially indicate that the consumer wage income is not increasing to the level that prices of products are going. And couple that with supply chain hurdles, there could be a period where, consumers are retracting from the store, even despite all the discretionary income that that a lot of the more affluent folks have right now. I'm curious on how that's potentially affecting your pitch, your conversations with retailers, and how you're thinking about that.
There's a really good example of that, Kevin, that if you look at the Japanese economy at the turn of the century, when all of a sudden consumption reduced dramatically and savings ratios shot up, you had a situation where the economy essentially tanked. You have to have consumption to be able to pay for Medicare, to be able to pay for the building of roads, to be able to pay for education. Consumption in our political system drives the availability of public money to improve the world for everybody. So what we've been doing at Uncrowd is, and this is how we got permission, incidentally, from the US Embassy to come to the US. This is how we got our national interest exemption, is our product helps retailers to stimulate growth and to stimulate return, not just to the physical store, but also to the online store. It's about helping people get an easier, more rewarding shopping experience. And actually that's been quite profound for us, is learning that consumption is one of the things that makes us all better off, not just the person who's doing the consuming. We can have really interesting arguments about whether that is the right political system for us to exist in, and that's very legitimate. But while we are in that state, if we want to have great societies, if we want to look after people that are, if we want to educate our kids, if we want to provide public health, if we want to do any of those things, we need to encourage that consumption. So anything that startups can do that helps those big retailers to stimulate economic activity is really important. And we really recognize that, and that's part of our pitch now.
If I could add, because I think that makes a lot of sense, and I mean, in spite of being a capitalist and also a startup founder in retail, I'm actually, slightly apathetic towards consumption personally, which I know is not the norm for a lot of my customers and clients. But our approach is actually to a great degree about the hedge of what people want at different times. That is not always about consumption. If you look at what we've had in our spaces today, it is a handbag shop, which is sort of the pinnacle of consumption, but it's also a gym, a corona testing center, an education space, an esports event, and that's in one day in 5 different sites. And I think, just like retail has to change seasonally throughout the year, we all need to be building businesses that are resilient to what is going to be a bumpy ride over the next period of time, and none of us quite know how that's going to play out. And one of those things is about being able to sell stuff that is not necessarily out and out transactional.
I totally agree that that's the right model of consumption. Consumption is still consumption of experiences, consumption of personal improvement, all those things. Totally endorse that.
I think one other thing, John, that you're talking about too, like it's so interesting about the space, like the reinvention of the space. And that's where we do hear a lot in customer conversations around the theme of agility, right? Because it's not just more is better. Sometimes you're leveraging margin. Sometimes you're averaging price per square foot in the store footprint, right? Sometimes you're anticipating what's going to happen. And Kevin, I think, like you're talking about all of these changes that have happened at rapid speed over the past year and a half, social unrest on various, pieces, the pandemic, which we've never had, and, changes in consumption supply chain. So like the only thing that's constant is that change is constant. And so how can you set your business up for success by being more agile and being able to move more quickly with all of your constituents, whether you set up a COVID shop or not. That was pretty cool.
And I would love to ask, maybe Joseph and Carrie to jump in here, but kind of the importance of one, agility, but like how to be agile. And I think like really that's like about, data, understanding data, using data, like that's probably the first step. For example, at Loco, you guys are essentially creating like a synthetic data environment, which means you don't actually have to, manually collect this data from like real life feeds or whatnot. You can actually create your own training data. So would love to, and then for Carrie, you guys are tracking every kind of moment of that return process in order to then figure out, hey, we can make a recommendation, do something better. So would love to get onto the topic of data and just like how retailers should, probably yesterday should be using data in various different ways, et cetera.
Absolutely. We are a data-driven company. The reason that we're here is, our technology relies on data and great data, not just okay data. And it's funny because also our business decisions and the business models that we create for Loco are all data-driven. So I think like that we embrace that spirit that you really need some concrete details to be working from and also be providing your customers. So when you get data right, the reality is that you make them more efficient, you make them better. They see into their business at a much granular level than they've never seen before, and they can make better informed decisions for the future. So they can predict, they can see patterns maybe that have been hidden. They can think about, changes to come and kind of just changes that they may not be so obvious sitting in front of them that they're so concentrated on. And that's what I think ultimately that data does, is that it helps reveal things that aren't so obvious all the time, so that you can better prepare for not just the future, but where you're spending your money, where you're spending your time, how your resources are being spent in this moment, and how that'll affect you if you continue going down the wrong path. So I think it's really insightful that it ultimately becomes a human issue, right? That we're talking about humans becoming more efficient and using the human resources to a better degree, and using the science of the data to really drive that human decision making. So we always put the human at the center of the solution here, because we're not replacing humans here. Like it's not about automating humans out of the equation. It's about using all these data points to make better informed decisions so that you can go faster, you can be more efficient, you have better insight, you can better predict, better prepare, and see where you're spending your money in ROI.
Yeah, to echo what Joseph's saying, when I think about the AI tools that Sarah provides, we think of them as more of a surveillance tool to provide real-time data so that store managers can make informed intervention and strategic decisions about what their returns policy should be. So the difference between when you go to manufacture a product, you look at, okay, how can I make this a high quality product at a low cost and quickly? And they're all those things are fighting each other, but AI doesn't get tired. You can actually get high quality data at a very high speed for a relatively really low cost. So for online retailers, the first step to actually leveraging that data is collecting it. And so that's, even though returns portal may seem like a very basic thing to put in your online store, it's a mean to a very powerful end, which is having returns data that you can then use to make these decisions.
Yeah, and again, totally endorse that view, Carrie. It's so essential. And one of the really fascinating things, and this is, you kind of I have to admit this is a shortcoming myself in the past. I've been a retailer for 36 years. So I've seen, our first head office didn't have computers. We didn't have PCs. We just did everything on the telephone with typewriters. And so, yeah, what did you do in the war, Grandad? But one of the things that we've noticed is that was a time of very muscular decision making. And I mean that in a very gendered sense. It was very much about big choices. And often those were just wrong, because they weren't supported by data, but people would have this big, I'll pull in all my insight resources and I'll get them to support my hypothesis no matter what, make big choices and big investments that often would fall flat. And what we're seeing now is exactly, Melissa said this really clearly, it's a more agile approach, a more data-driven approach, as Joseph said, that allows us to almost relax a little bit and say, well, do you know what is the data really telling me about what this experience should look like? What is the data telling me about what my customers are getting elsewhere that perhaps might draw them away from me? What really do people want from me? Is it what I think it is? Or actually, is it much more nuanced than that? Or is it really shocking and surprising? And we're finding in practice, so our data looks at the entire marketplace, not just the individual retailer. So I don't know, if you're Gap, say, you look at the entirety of the companies that can service your particular space, and there you get a chance to almost shrink your ego down a little bit. And if you can see from the data that this mission is being serviced way better than you're able to do it right now here, you've suddenly got all those data points that allow you to do something about it. Either build something that works better as Gap, that does something differently as Gap, or that does something brand new.
I thought it was interesting. You said relax a bit with the data. Maybe on the startup side, but I find that all of our solutions make our customers at first panic a bit, because they don't even know how much incidents and how much stuff is actually going on. They think they know until they see it deployed, and it is shocking every single time. It is shocking every single time. And then they're like, oh my God, like we have to get now management involved, and we have to like reverse course. But these are the right things to happen, right? Like you have to be open to that, because the data will point in a certain direction, and you have to be willing. The organization that you're serving has to be willing to adapt to that. Otherwise, they're just going to keep going in the wrong direction. They're going to be spending a lot more money trying to do band-aids and patches along the way, as opposed to embracing that transformational change that really does come about from using data in the correct way.
And I mean, we're all keep agreeing with each other, which is a bad debate, isn't it? We need a couple of arguments, but I totally agree with that as well. And we all work in an industry that's deeply inefficient, be it in terms of supply chains, be it in terms of too much stock, too many shops, probably too many people. And there is a wonderful moment to address all of that, and it is right now, because for the first time in ages, having anchored most of our economies around the real estate, the P that invests in a lot of these businesses, we were able to look at it differently, and people are prepared to change.
Well, John, I think my spicy counter opinion is that a lot of retailers have that data. and they have those dashboards and all of their capabilities, but there's still a bottleneck, right? I mean, decisions, Melissa mentioned the agility aspect. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that, a lot of times the most senior level executives are, started at the store level and worked their way up. To Richard's point, maybe they started on typewriters or telephones, and it was about adding gusto to the decision, and that led to amazing serendipity. They were able to find a store merchandising decision that maybe the data or some kind of insight said this won't work out, and so forth. So I'm curious on data quality and data governance, and how you influence that, because sometimes the information can point to something, but then the personality and the experience is still valuable in making key decisions. And I'm curious on how you handle that with your different stakeholders.
That's why what we do had to exist. I had no intention to create a startup. I wrote various books about retail, and one of them I wanted to tackle this idea of understanding preference between one retail option and another. It comes down to something we call relative attractiveness. How do I know if I'm relatively more attractive than an alternative? We call it RA. And so from an academic perspective, I was forced, because it wasn't a thing. I wanted to write a great idea, to take cognitive bias out of it, to take confirmation bias out of it, to take those heuristics and biases out of the data, so that you had a cold, hard, objective reality displayed, and a mechanism for then applying the rationality of customers, of mission and mindset on top of it. And that was the big breakthrough in doing that, because that gives you that cleanness of data. Because honestly, a lot of customer insight, and insight people are really frustrated by this, a lot of customer insight is used to just give some credibility to a hypothesis, so that if that hypothesis fails, at least the person who put it into play doesn't get fired, because they were able to say, well, there was evidence, but something else interrupted that data. So you're absolutely on the money there, Kevin, that we have to make sure that any data we offer is kind of unashamedly neutral, that is able to speak for itself. And we submitted a paper to a client this morning where I was sweating until yesterday to see whether or not their brands would come out of it okay. Because, there's always that challenge that you're going to give them something that says, well, actually, there's a whole bunch of mistakes been made here. Luckily, there was plenty of good things in the list, but there were also one or two things that were very hard hearing for that client. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to make that part of our data reality. And actually, Joseph said it, you've got to put things in front of people that they don't expect, providing it relates to the truth.
You know what I'd add to that as well? I'm Alice, I'm VP of Customer for Uncrowd, and I work with both of them here. When we talk to our customers, it's amazing that data now and the idea of governance hasn't really existed for a lot of them. So we talk about mindsets, and it's one of the parts that I love about our platform is you can take someone who's maybe a completely different gender, age bracket, but at that point in time when they're interacting, they might be in the exact same mindset. They might be in a rush. They might be on the exact same mission. And that idea of that being so new, I think is reflective of the point that actually a lot of decisions are just made on, our consumer is someone who's looking for a new household good, and there is no governance. Yeah. So actually, one of the beautiful things about data now is that it describes how people are feeling, not just what happened. So actually, the more governance around that, just by pushing new ideas, is only going to help.
I wanted to add to that, you made a good point, like the senior management that maybe came up using analog equipment. So the data itself has to be visualized or presented in a dashboard in the right way for each of these departments, each of these kind of people at the different strata of a business. You can't just reveal the data and go, here it is, good luck. What we find often is that you have different audiences within an organization that you really have to pay attention to when you're presenting this, because they're looking at different things. The data may point in one direction, but the way it's presented in the bottom line, or the numbers that they care about the most, may be different, department to department, person to person, organization within organization.
Alrighty, folks, what an exciting panel. I wish we could talk for hours, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining, and it sounds, good to see you, Richard, right there downstairs, and we'll see you soon. And everyone else joining virtually.
Sorry, we couldn't keep Rocky quiet. I apologise for that.
I've been listening. We're going to come upstairs and find you in a minute.
That sounded like a threat.
Yeah. We can carry on the conversation.
Have a great evening, folks. Good seeing
Thank you
everyone.
so much for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. And thank you to another exciting panel. And thank you to Kevin and Tanya. Took a lot away. It's okay to have some spice. It's okay to have some agreement, especially around data-driven decision-making and the Silicon Valley technology world coming together with the brands and retailers who have such dominant reach to their consumers. Which brings us to our next group of startups. Remember after the pitches to vote on the polls. And now our industry in retail has been in social commerce for quite some time, but there continues to be incredible innovation in the space and a massive move towards more media and content creation. Partner that with a consumer mandate around environmental responsibility, and that's what you get for our next group, social commerce and environmental responsibility. Up first, a unified platform that celebrates creators and brings brands and audiences together around Black content. Welcome, Black Tag.
Today, Black Tag, a global interactive platform modernizing how we create and consume Black content, has unveiled plans for bringing its multi-tiered platform to brands, creators, and audiences around the world.
In the world of entertainment, Black creative power hasn't always equated to economic power. Now, a new streaming service called Black Tag hopes to change that.
The digital platform, which will officially launch in 2021, has already inked partnerships with major artists like Foray and Common.
Founders Akin Adebowale and Usman So joined us with more.
Black Tag is a global platform for Black content creators and then the brands that seek to reach our massive audiences. It's pretty much a hybrid between an entertainment platform such as a HBO or Netflix and a social video platform like YouTube. So, we kind of combine the powers of both to create something like this.
When you look at Black culture, we set a lot of trends in mainstream culture and we define a lot of meaningful activity around the world. And so when we looked at it, we often see that a lot of major divisions are targeting Black creators and Black audiences, but a lot of the times they're not benefiting from that creativity. And so we saw a need for a world to be more inclusive, not just in terms of working at these companies, but more so inclusive in terms of capital and redirecting capital towards their value, towards their creativity.
One of the things that we focus on as a company is this concept of the alternative Black audience and artists. And so that's a major trend that we see also helping us future-proof our platform. So this idea that new approaches towards content consumption, towards content creation, just ideas from politically to economically, artistically. We're starting to see an overall shift towards a much more progressive approach, a much more international and global approach.
Our product is really broken down into 4 different categories in terms of content. Starting off with sponsored content, working with brands to reallocate and position creators to create meaningful content. Black Tag is acting as a creator studio. So, we're developing original content in-house, long form, short form series, syndicated series as well. And the third bucket is licensed content. So licensing original content from the past that was very meaningful towards our culture and towards the growth of our culture, and owning back some of that IP. And then the fourth component of that, which is user-generated content, allowing the creators to find this as a destination to come to allow those brands to find them and to help them incentivize to create more content for a community that's specifically geared for them.
One of our key issues that we're solving, kind of the key driver that we're building Black Tag on, is this idea of Black creative power can and must equate Black economic power. And so our approach is, we're a very small part of this global movement. But our focus is leveraging Black creators and Black creativity and Black art to help close that economic divide and that gap.
Our plan is to not only announce this company publicly, but globally as well, and allow creators who are underserved to find a solution around what we're building. We are acting as a creator studio today, creating partnerships, creating content in-house, leveraging the database of creators that we have, and putting them at the forefront of creativity, and then allowing these brands to touch into them. So, utilizing that capital to build something very strong and meaningful content that really engages audiences in a different way that's never been really done before is something that we're really excited about.
And so, I always like to say, 2020 is our generation's 1968. And so, it's kind of a call to action to say, what are we all doing collectively to contribute to this global movement?
We are very connected to this idea of always being at the forefront of creating. But there's a subset of that, there's a separation of really this equating and giving back the power to the folks that are creating that. There is no culture without Black culture.
Thank you, Black Tag, and download the app now. Up next, there are two major pain points facing retail. One around the sustainability of single-use bags, and the second on the need for your next advertising location. Intersecting both, please welcome Bagboard.
Hi, I'm Ashley, the co-founder of Bagboard, and I'm pleased to be presenting Bagboard to you today. There are millions of people like me who want to shop more sustainably, but don't know where to start. And there are an increasing number of brands who are putting purpose and profit hand in hand, but they're struggling to cut through the noise of traditional advertising to reach consumers like me. That's why we created Bagboard. We are a new sustainable advertising platform and marketplace that connects conscious brands with conscious consumers. We advertise sustainable brands, empowering consumers to proactively engage with brands who align with their values and enabling them to spend more consciously. And in doing so, Bagboard is driving new spending behaviors that will accelerate the growth of the sustainable economy. So how does it work? We replace single-use plastic bags with our eco-friendly, reusable paper smart bags that feature advertising campaigns from our sustainable brands on the front and back, basically creating mobile billboards. I can either pick one of these bags up for free from any one of Bagboard's 2,000 independent stores in central London, or order one to be sent directly to me via the Bagboard app. I then earn rewards every time I reuse the bag by scanning the QR code on the side of the bag to share my GPS data with Bagboard. Every time I do this, I earn rewards that can be spent back on the sustainable brands in the app marketplace. Bagboard also removes ocean-bound plastic with every reuse, and we've already removed the equivalent of over 400,000 single-use plastic bags. We're based in London, and our team is headed up by industry experts, including the global CEO of M&C Saatchi Performance, and Sky, the UK's biggest spender on advertising, and also an investor in Bagboard. To date, we've raised over $3 million to develop our platform, and since our launch only a few weeks ago, we've seen huge traction, with over 4,000 user downloads, oversubscribed campaigns from over 35 sustainable brand partners live at the moment, and write-ups in the London Evening Standard, Forbes, and many more. We are working towards a huge growth campaign planned for next summer to flood London with campaigns before expanding to 55 cities around the world over the next 3 years. We're now looking for brands to partner with who want to drive sustainable spending globally and to use their advertising budgets to have a positive impact on people and the planet. Thanks so much for your time, and I'd love to take any questions.
Excellent, and thank you, Bagboard. Seeking carbon neutrality or to reduce your carbon footprint, Vayu can help lower your environmental impact. Welcome, Vayu.
We're the team from Vayu, and we help online retailers track and cut their carbon emissions in real time. We started Vayu at the end of 2020, and we recently closed a pre-seed funding round of $1.5 million led by Capital T. Our team is made up of engineers, environmental scientists, and sustainability experts. We know for retailers, collecting data and adding emission factors is a time-consuming and labor-intensive process. Vayu wants to change this. Online retailers can connect their point-of-sale system with 3 clicks. For stores not on standardized platforms, we have an API that they can integrate into their system, making the calculation both automated and real-time. Brands can then choose the carbon footprint calculation modules to suit their business. Vayu helps brands identify detailed reduction measures, allows businesses to offset their unavoidable emissions, and communicate their sustainability story using seals and other communication materials.
What I really love about Vayu is that it seamlessly integrates into our shop platform and magically shows all our data in an easy-to-use dashboard, calculating our carbon emissions real-time. Until now, there has been no service and tool that gives us this quality of data and precise calculations that we can actually trust.
Previously, we had the data spread across so many different places. Spreadsheet here, spreadsheet there, then there was the raw data coming from the different teams, and we didn't really have one central place where we could just go in and have a really good overview of how the emissions look like. And now with Vayu, we have this dashboard, and it's so intuitive to navigate. We can really see it at one glance. We can break it down into different countries when we want to look at operations or transportation. And what I love most about it is super accurate data in real time.
We would love to work with more brand partners and businesses in the online retail space.
Thank you, Vayu. Now, the peer-to-peer resale market and the circular economy are growing exponentially. Recurate enables a resale marketplace directly on your e-commerce site. Welcome, Recurate.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present. Recurate is an e-commerce integration that enables a peer-to-peer marketplace directly on brands' websites. It allows them to take control of the resale market for their products. We just started last year, about a year and a half old now, but we're live with 25 fantastic brand partners. We have a team of 26 people. Including a whole lot of experience in brands, e-commerce, and re-commerce. My background is that I was formerly at the trade association that represents the largest retailers and brands. My co-founder, Wilson, was at Gap Inc. for 6 years. Karen Dilley has a long career in resale, most recently at The RealReal. And then Cynthia Power, our head of brand success, built and led Eileen Fisher's Renew program. Recurate is a very straightforward experience enabled directly on a brand's website. If you've ever purchased with that brand before, you could log in to find your purchase history, select an item that you want to sell directly from that purchase history, and then people who are interested in buying pre-loved products can purchase that item directly from the brand's website. Just take one example. Brass Clothing is a brand that we launched with late last year. They have a fiercely loyal customer community that was previously buying and selling in a Facebook group. We were able to take all of those transactions and customers and bring them back to Brass's website. And now they're seeing that 12.4% of their total sales is attributed to resale. We're always looking for great brand partners, so if you know of anyone that wants to join the resale revolution, please feel free to reach out to me or visit our website at recurate.com. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Recurate. All right, let's solve fit. Have you ordered something online in your size only to find out it didn't fit exactly as you had expected? Where is the modern solution to personalized fit? Welcome, Where.
Hi there, my name is Greg Moore. I'm the CEO of Where, and we are the sizing and fit engine for apparel brands and retailers. We were founded in 2012. We have 19 employees and we've raised $6.4 million. Our company for the first 4 to 5 years was all about data collection in terms of bodies from all over the globe. And in the past 2 or 3 years, we've been very much in the growth phase based on the SaaS platforms that we've built out to solve some of the problems we're looking to tackle. Our founding team came from companies like SportVision, MobClicks, TaskRabbit, Tile, and then we have a key set of advisors from Whoop, Third Love, Stitch Fix, Shopify, Uniqlo, you name it. We've got an amazing team and really excited to tackle the problems we're facing. Now, our solution is injected directly into apparel e-commerce sites. And basically what it does is that it asks for 4 clicks from a shopper. And based on those 4 clicks, we predict the body dimensions of that shopper. And then we recommend the best fitting size across the entire product catalog. Our roadmap for this includes taking over all of size communication for brands and apparel e-commerce companies in the world. And it's a huge opportunity. There's over 7 billion transactions per year in apparel e-commerce, and that's growing at about 14% CAGR. Now, after a shopper uses us on a site, we're capturing their body dimensions, we're capturing their order history, returns, reviews, also geolocation in the world, and any of the marketing parameters that brought that in. We correlate all that data together, and we provide that through a set of insights and advanced analytics to our customers to help them with product design, inventory management, and marketing strategy. Essentially, where is the flywheel that creates efficiencies and profitability and sustainability for brands associated with sizing? Now, we've added 60 storefronts in the past 4 months. We're growing very, very quickly because we are a differentiated size and fit recommendation solution with the ability to enhance a business from the back. In 2021, we're going to bring in about $5.2 million worth of revenue. We've also hit about 16.2% month-over-month growth rate, almost completely organically. So as of right now, we're really looking towards the injection of capital in order to add fuel to that fire. What we're here for to ask for is we're raising a $12 million equity round. That's going to help us to reach a $10 million rev run rate. And we anticipate getting there in about 18 months. We've really built the infrastructure, so we're ready to inject capital into sales and marketing, as well as research and development to really achieve the roadmap that we want, again, to take over total sizing communication for our customers. That's it for me. I know this is a quick pitch, but at the end of the day, we have the timing, the team, and we've executed and we know how to execute, and we're looking forward to that. What we're looking for is capital with a vision, right? Capital that understands that this is a growing, huge opportunity in front of us and wants to work with an amazing team to get there. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Where. Remember to fill out that poll that pops up. And it is my pleasure now, what a fantastic group of startups, to introduce the next panel. This is based on this category, social commerce and environmental responsibility. Please welcome our panelists and our team for this group.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. And welcome panelists as we get you on the board here. Okay, well, while we're getting that set up, so team, I'm going to start with a spicy question, which is what, a lot of our last panel was all about kind of macro. What we're noticing in the market, hyperinflationary period potentially coming, consumer pockets tightening up, wage growth not occurring, and let's use other past periods in history as an example. And what we've often seen is corporations cutting on mission-driven projects. How is now different? How is what you're pitching to these corporations and how they would potentially incorporate your technology so important for their future, despite whatever may be occurring in the macro economy?
I can go and answer that first. Yes, I'm Greg, CEO of Where. So I think from our perspective, there's a couple of things that are happening that are a lot different from the past, right? One is that there is a macro environmental and a macroeconomic movement here. And I don't think that you can lean away from those, right? Those are happening around the world. Consumers are starting to react to that behavior and to brands that are leaning into sustainability and environmentally, being environmentally sound. From the micro environmental perspective, I think that a lot of the things that the panelists here offer actually do go towards the profit line, right? So one of the things that we constantly talk about and we track through a lot of cohort testing is that our customers end up paying us out of the additional capital that we create based on being more efficient and more profitable. And I think for brands to lean into the pockets of some of these larger companies, right, we need to be able to have the narrative and then the data to back up that that's exactly what we're doing, that we are creating additional free cash flow based on the services that we're offering by helping them take this leap to be more sustainable. Now, I don't think that every brand can say that or every vendor can say that. I think some of it is a bit aspirational or maybe future facing. But at the end of the day, being able to tie back into the profit level of each one of our customers is really a way to help move the needle from the deployment process and the growth process.
Yeah, I think just to add as well what Greg was saying, I felt a lot, especially with on the macro side with corporations, you're seeing a lot of where the investment flow is going is much more within the sustainability space and funding innovations. And I think that's because there's both one, there is an impact for consumers, then consumers are driving that as well, voting with their feet. Something we try to do at Bagboard is try to redirect a great amount of spend into sustainable brands and try to change the entire sort of economics, that if there is more spend going towards those brands, it then creates a behavioral environment that to be competitive, you also have to address those issues and tackle them head on. So I think a lot of these, I think real tackling like the biggest challenges we face more so now than ever, and it's not just within sustainability, but it requires collaboration. And we're seeing that ever more now between corporates and consumers on the ground. So for us, we're particularly concentrated on conscious consumerism. So our mission is to revolutionize how we as a society spend, because we believe that will, as a society, if we can do that from the consumer ground up, it also changes the macro as part of that. But yeah, I think with that sort of direction of how, we all cast a vote every day with what we eat, what we spend, what we wear, and that vote is being counted, and corporates are reciprocal with that by also trying to help consumers as well lead towards more sustainable behavior.
And maybe just building on what both Greg and Josh said, I think from my perspective on the macro kind of picture, obviously we see a lot of legislation coming in on the environmental side. So I think that has a lot of impact on kind of the business imperative that brands need to start doing work in the space. And then on kind of the micro, I couldn't agree more that we're seeing customers really engage with brands, with businesses that kind of live their values, and they're really wanting to spend and buy from brands that kind of do that. So couldn't agree more with both Greg and Josh on that.
I don't have anything else to add, but maybe just to summarize, really there's 2 points, which is that consumers and governments are caring about this more, and there's more money to be made by engaging in sustainable and more efficient practices.
I'm curious on a lot of you are disrupting fashion, and probably the biggest disruptor in B2C in probably in the last 2 years has been Shein, which is not necessarily a sustainable company, I don't think by any means. They're, if anything, disrupting an already big pollutant, which is fast fashion. Obviously, all brands don't need to be fast fashion companies, but this is an emerging company that's done really well in the last 2 years. And it's caught the attention of major Fortune 500 retailers, where it's develop product, throw it out, no one buys it, great, I'll make something new, instead of, let's say, personalizing it to the consumer, a testing in the market, if you will. What's your perspective on that? How do you think of when different players that go obviously against the mission of what your companies are necessarily doing? Like, how do you look at them and so forth?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of in a weird space as far as that goes, right? Because even though that's the case, if you start to think about reducing the round trips for exchanges, returns, and things like that, just based on having better sizing, you're still even making a company like that more efficient, right? And therefore, in their efficiencies, they're becoming more sustainable. So even though they're not necessarily a great player from an environmental perspective, we can make them a better player from that perspective. I think one of the other big things to think about too is there are a lot of segments in e-commerce specifically in retail, but I'll just say this in apparel, right? You have kind of your upper enterprise tier brands that have been leaning into at least that face value, sustainability, and environmental impact for quite some time. I can't say that they've done a whole lot until recently, but they're now starting to modify the supply chains to be able to do that. Then you get your sort of smaller enterprise markets that don't necessarily have the profit margins or cash flow to really lean into that, and are still really just looking towards creating as much profit as humanly possible, because that's what the executive teams and boards want. And then you sort of have this whole other layer of mid-market and D2C. And unless they have established themselves as a sustainable brand in the first place, it's likely that it's an afterthought at best. And so again, when we look at this market, you can have these teams that really lean into sustainability, and they're starting to really do some great things. But the rest of the market still needs tools to help them become more efficient and more sustainable with their current operations models. And so as we look around the room here at a lot of the entrepreneurs, it's like, where do we create these modules that can plug in to these brands that can't truly invest in innovation to become more sustainable as solutions providers for them, to help them sort of start to bridge that gap. And I think that's where you're seeing a lot of the investment in the space, or should be a lot of the investment in the space.
Yeah, I think also probably to add, I didn't quite catch the name mentioned, but I got the sort of the gist and the ethos. I think it's it's often one of those things that we're trying to really tackle, in that often as has been in the past, it is difficult both for consumers and businesses to be sustainable, to change entire supply chains and to rewrite, and also to really, it's not necessarily such a straightforward black and white area in terms of doing guidelines of what is sustainable. And I think that often that sometimes that can be confusing for the consumer. It can become confusing for companies about the best ways to do things. But I think if we can get through a model where those that are necessarily being efficient and also being sustainable with their practices are economically incentivized, I think that's one of the ways that you can really tackle a lot of that very much disposable type of economy. So as part of that, the different ways of approaching that, and there's so much great innovation out there that does look at it. One of the things we do is try to incentivize people to promote those brands so that they're able to get a digital currency to make it more economically incentivized to spend on those brands, versus, let's say, within the fashion sector, those that are really being able to be able to see the guidelines, the sustainability factors behind it, but also economically make it good. Because we all as consumers, whether we like it or not, we make choices as well based on economic means, at least on the mass population. So if we are looking at real mass adoption in terms of changing real behavior change, which is difficult at best, I think that there has to be a component of an appreciation of the economic factor and being able to help people with that as well as businesses, of course.
And I mean, just one quick thing to add there that I would say is, I think sustainability always is a journey. And I think we're kind of along that journey, and I think will take a while to get businesses and to kind of move the trajectory. I think we've seen a move in the space in the last couple of years that we hadn't seen in the last 15. So I think also we're seeing consumers change. We're obviously not there yet. We're seeing brands change, but I think for us, it's about the iteration and about trying to move along the industry and support where we can, and kind of help brands along that journey and provide the tools for them to do better and understand the impact of their business, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, a quick question about kind of Shein and the whole, fast fashion culture amongst the youth. I mean, traditionally, I think initially we thought that the youth were going to be the drivers of kind of sustainable fashion. They're going to really be the ones, Depop and all the kind of thrifting and all of that kind of culture. We're thinking, yeah, they're going to really make the change. And then now that Shein comes along, you realize that ultimately, it still comes down to money and affordability. Would love to get your thought on whether that has changed your understanding of Gen Z and the youth, or do you think that it's just all right, currently they might not have the means to buy, a little more expensive garments, etc., that are sustainable, but they will move towards that direction? Would love to just get your thoughts on this youth and the Gen Z.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
I just figured I'd try it this first. Not that I'm an expert at Gen Z by any means, but I think it's hard to tag one whole population or generation in any particular way. So you know, they're not the generation that's going to save us, nor is the millennial generation the generation that's going to save us. You know, it's really everyone. And if you look at and dissect any generation, you're going to find that there's a ton of perspectives and differences amongst them. So, you know, there's not a one way to describe them, that, you know, they're the generation of Depop or the generation of resale. But I think we're trending to an all of the above future, and you know, where I focus at Recurate is resale, and we're finding that Gen Z and millennial generations are the ones that are primarily driving that. That's not to say that they don't also buy fast fashion. They do, but they're also driving a whole new trend, which is to engage in resale, and frankly, they've made it cool to buy used products, right? It's more affordable, it's more sustainable, and it's more unique. So I think brands are going to need to get into that, but they're also going to need to rethink their business models in other ways as well, because no generation is one-dimensional.
Yeah, is a very good point that I think Adam's made across that, because Depop's a really good example because they've done incredibly well and built a really, you know, incredibly successful business that's a template for a lot. And I'm just based here in the UK, see a lot of businesses that are doing very well off that model. And I know as a business backboard, we definitely do sort of attract a lot of people within millennials and also Gen Z. And so from taking my sort of reference points, I can see that behavior is changing gradually from a fashion perspective. So I'm very sort of positive and optimistic around that, because I'm also seeing other businesses that traditionally you wouldn't class as sustainable, but are investing a lot in changing their entire supply chains. And like Namrata mentioned, sustainability is a journey. As part of that, it's very difficult to expect businesses that for hundreds of years have had a certain way of operating a supply chain to change overnight. So we always want to see things moving in that direction. But I feel like a large part of this that will change things even further and accelerate is the ability for people to see like the visibility of impact, almost like scanning a barcode, seeing exactly how it was made, the whole transparent. And I think just being able to see the transparency of that journey will really help lead more people to make the choices that they would like to make, but at least be informed as part of doing it.
Yeah, and in some ways, you know, you're making it gamified, right? So I guess like Namrata, that's what you're working on. You're kind of like, hey, look, this is like the actual visual impact that you can see. I mean, I would love to also hear from your perspective, what's the biggest pushback you've gotten from brands and corporations that want to work with you, but, you know, may not be able to do so for certain reasons?
So I think for us, obviously, the business imperative is there. They understand kind of climate change is important. It's important to customers. I think sometimes the biggest pushback we get is for brands having the capacity in-house to have the teams and the people to support and the people to understand and kind of help them along that journey. So we're trying to simplify it as much as we can. So basically it becomes accessible to people who aren't experts, because we hear a lot, we're not experts, we don't have the expertise in-house to kind of break down what does carbon mean, we don't have kind of the technical skills. So we get a lot of pushback on the technical side. So for our kind of takeaway and what we've learned from that is we need to make it really, really easy for brands and businesses to understand the complexity and boil it down in a way that you can really synthesize and make it easy to understand, because I think that's the biggest pushback is we don't understand what all of this data means. We don't understand the complexity, and one thing you do has a massive impact on something else. So you also need to boil all of that down so you don't kind of go away and do something massively at scale that then has a negative impact on something else. So it's kind of boiling all of that down and making it simple. And I think for us, that's the challenge we've taken on, and we're really trying to see how can we make that super easy for brands to understand and act and understand the impact that they have.
Yeah, I just second that. Again, coming from the place where I'm focused on resale, there's clearly a market imperative to get into resale now if you're a D2C brand. Every brand that we talk to has, no surprise, searched for themselves on Poshmark and Depop and eBay, and they see that there's thousands and thousands of listings for their products. And they're thinking, who are these customers and why can't I interact with them? So the need is certainly there. I don't think we find any obstacles in that. But brands tend to have relatively small teams, relatively small budgets. It's a small margin business. So as much as possible, if we can make it simple for them so it doesn't take long to implement and they see value as soon as possible, then it overcomes whatever hurdles they might have just internally.
Yeah, I think one of the other. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
Thanks. No, thanks, Greg. I very quick one for my side. I just thought I think the pushback we get is actually very different to a lot of different companies, because we're within the media space as well, and so I think with any new innovation that comes out, which is different, it takes a bit of time to understand it, as in using bags as a mobile billboard and that sense of a new media format. So I'd say that's the sense where we get sort of a I wouldn't say pushback, but more sense of having more in-depth conversations, because we go within the CSR and marketing type budgets as part of that. But yeah, go. Sorry, Greg, for cutting in there.
No, be sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say one of the other things, like, we really try to lean into, and we're still learning, not experts at this by any matters, but is storytelling, and then storytelling with a material reason behind it, right? So at the end of the day, I think, like, again, in the apparel space, when you say the word sustainability, a lot of people have been trained to think about the only way that the apparel industry is sustainable is if we go towards something like mass customization, right? Which is such an amazingly huge shift over into a whole different supply chain, different production. Like it's if it ever happens, is like 30 years away, right? Just because of capitalization of equipment. And so when you think about our ability to kind of chunk off pieces of the sustainability drive, it's helping our customers understand that there is a journey that they can take. There are pieces of this journey that we can all provide, and that we can help to do this easily and efficiently to kind of get to more sustainable processes. Not that they need to go towards what media has said is the only way to get towards sustainability, which is just a massive undertaking that nobody can really actually even think about. So I think, like, when we're thinking through this in the deployment process and helping our customers along with their journey, like the same thing we do as entrepreneurs for investors and for each other and partners and whatever else, is finding a way to make the story digestible to the point that we take them out of these like big, hairy, audacious goals initiatives and focus on, like, hey, there's a piece of this you can solve now, right? And it's actually relatively cost efficient to do so. And then there's another piece that you can solve tomorrow and another piece that you can solve the next day. So I think, like, helping people understand that journey is something that can kind of help us continue to deploy and distribute.
Interesting point you bring up there, Greg. So the same way that we're all evolving our messaging and the world increasingly caring about sustainability and the environmental impact that our products have, obviously the venture ecosystem is changing. I've been in venture for almost a decade, and when we started, it's no one wanted to invest in circularity unless it was kind of a deep tech focused firm. And now we're seeing obviously consumer iterations and more technology implementations of sustainability tech. What have your conversations been with investors? What were some of the learnings that you had early on, and how are you iterating on that? And what is the venture ecosystem like for you right now?
Yeah, it's interesting because, as I said, we need to tell the story to our customers that iteration and incrementalization is really good. The entire venture ecosystem is built totally differently, right? It's not built on incremental gains. It's built on explosive growth and moonshots, right? I can't remember the book, but it's home runs per at bat, not batting average, right? So at the end of the day, I think that there is a pretty big venture hole out there for companies that can come in and help to incrementally solve problems, where there's still a tremendous amount of scale, but it's not the solution that's going to totally, revolutionize an industry. So I think in the venture world, for businesses like us that are a part of that incremental gain, it's really all about traction, right? Can we prove to them that there's an exit opportunity that's a big enough multiple on their investment in? but understanding that we may not be the solution that revolutionizes the entire industry in that perspective. So I think it's, again, it kind of comes back to your ability to iterate the story based on the person listening to the story to get them towards the path of like, hey, I am the solution towards a problem that is actually pretty big. So it's you know, sustainability is weird because I think we all think about it from the perspective of moonshots, and media has totally positioned it from that capacity. But solving these incremental gains makes a really, really big deal along the way. It's something we can lean into.
Couldn't agree more with Greg. I was going to say that someone said to me, I think a couple of months ago, and I think it really struck and kind of is very much along the lines of what Greg said. It's in venture, you're kind of taught to think winner takes it all in a market. And I think this is a super different market because you need many, many people to win for us to be solving the problems that we're solving at scale. And there isn't going to be one winner across all of sustainability, but there's, as Greg said, many, many different things we're all kind of trying to work on and fix, and even super nuanced, complex things that you'd have like a winner doing like one small part of the problem, but taking a huge piece of the pie. And I think it's just a little bit of a mind shift to think about the fact that lots of people need to win. You're not going to have one kind of carbon unicorn. You hopefully will have 100 or a couple of hundred because a lot of people need to be working on the problem. And I think that mindset needs to change a little bit to say that lots of people need to win in this space for all of us to actually win in the long run. And I think that's quite a big change from kind of how venture has been done for a long time.
Yeah, I think, Kevin, you make a good point in terms of how the landscape has changed over 10 years. And we've had a good experience in that we've gone through a lot of different various funding sources, from angels to crowdfunding to corporate VCs as well. And because we mentioned Depop earlier, that's a great example of a venture-backed sustainability story that happened. And I do think that people are paying way more attention to it in terms of being able to find, I think venture by definition looks for the outsized returns and looks as part of that. And I don't think that's sort of a mutually exclusive thing, that whether it's sustainability or not non-sustainability. I think the aspect that there are now way more growing trends, more than 8% of people want to shop more sustainably. So by definition, I think you can get a lot of sort of consumer focused products, a lot of areas within the VC that are backing fund, and you're seeing a lot more funds that are just purely impact based and are successful as part of it. So I not that I'm probably disagreeing with what's been said before, but I do think that you can get those unicorns which are sustainability focused, which doesn't compromise your sort of operational capabilities, only because there are a lot of more sort of funds coming up that are from operators who have worked within the sustainability space or exited a business. Now, to be successful, you don't necessarily have to build a venture-backed business in terms of measuring impact, but I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have, and it's a healthy debate to sort of put whether it's sort of you need to be VC-backed to get the success from a social and environmental case, or you can also do it alternatively through other funding routes.
For what it's worth, I'll tell you what I've seen from my own experience, which is that investors are still looking for the unicorns. They're looking for outsized returns. That's probably no surprise. But we've talked about it in this group earlier today. There's a very entrepreneur friendly market right now, and so that means there's more money out there for folks like us. We're at the intersection of e-commerce enablement. There's a whole lot of investment going into e-commerce enablement. Sustainability seems like it's one of the elements of every VC's thesis, but I don't know if that's just a nice to have, they like saying it, or if it's really meaningful to them. It might just be, one of those cherry on top decisions, but not necessarily their primary driver. And then specific to Recurate is resale. There's certainly a thesis out there that a number of investors that I've talked to have, and that's because they've seen several IPOs recently, from ThreadUp to The RealReal to others, as well as Depop's recent exit. And so they're thinking, gosh, there's something in resale as well. So for us, it's e-commerce enablement, it's sustainability, and it's resale.
Very cool. Yeah, totally agree with many of the points. I think, everyone is talking about sustainability and, environmental kind of consciousness, but in the end, I think we're still a little slow in terms of actions to be made. But hopefully, we'll be able to catch up and yeah, kind of everybody has to work together. Brands, investors, startups, everybody really has to do that part. But totally agree. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. This was really insightful and super interesting. It was a pleasure to have you all. And yeah, thanks again for joining.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Bye.
Excellent. And thank you to another phenomenal panel discussion. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Kevin and Tanya. Just really remarkable. Come away with a whole lot. I hope you did too. Ideally, some thoughts and some people to reach out to have some conversation with, and to take some of those ideas and push them forward. Definitely not just a cherry on top to come to our expo. Let's make something out of it. So now comes one of my favorite parts of the whole event, which is when we recognize one of our corporate partners with the Innovation Award. Now, for this past batch, this partner has been incredibly engaged, not just within Plug and Play's brand and retail program, but across several others, including fintech and health and the entire Plug and Play ecosystem. They even pushed the boundaries with what a deal flow session means. I'm incredibly excited about the potential and the future possibilities working with this partner, and I'm excited to present the Plug and Play Brand and Retail's Batch 16 Corporate Innovation Award to EY Parthenon, with a very special shout out to our champion, Laura McGarity. Woo! Roaring with applause. And we'll hear a lot more from them later on, so stay tuned. Now, for you, here still with us, please join us tomorrow as we keep the Plug and Play Fall Summit 2021 going. Day 2 will be food and beverage, followed by media and advertising. I really hope you had a great time today. It was a great celebration of all the startups and corporations, our partners and our investors and our entire team here. And we can't do it without you. Think about joining if you are interested in what we're doing and you want to be a part of 2022, which I cannot wait for. Reach out to the team and your Plug and Play team members. A special thank you to Akadina and all of program and operations and marketing, to partner success, business development, to ventures. Everyone out there, we really can't make this day happen without you. It's been a huge production, and I'm very excited we made it this far. Thank you, and have a great day.